Um, I'm making tea. It's so obvious I'm making tea. I clean the teacup and then I'm making green tea. So no, I don't know who this person came in and said, "What are you doing? You sound weird." I'm like, "Well, no, I'm making tea. I'm making green tea." So I like to drink green tea when I do a live stream. And you must be one of the people that supports Justin Trudeau. Obviously, I don't support Justin Trudeau, but you sound like someone who does. So I'm already expecting you to hate me because obviously you like him. I don't like him, but you have the right to not like him. That's fine. You don't have to like him, and you don't have to like me. But I have my freedom of speech, and the majority of America hates him. The majority of the United States of America hates Justin Trudeau. So I have about 90% of Americans on my side. So you can stick with your 10% on your side, and I'll stick with my 90% because the majority of America hates Justin Trudeau. So I got more people on my side. But you're free to have whatever opinion you want. If you like him, if you're still gonna stand by Justin Trudeau, you can do whatever you want. But I don't have to like him, and I don't have to like Justin Trudeau. I don't like him. So sorry. No, no. I'm on America's side with this one. Because not all Canadians, by the way, we don't all support that fucking Justin Trudeau. Not all Canadians support Justin Trudeau, just so you know, because they try to make it look like Canada, like all of Canada voted for Justin Trudeau. I never voted for Justin Trudeau, and there's a lot of conservative Canadians that never voted for that freak. And I never voted for him either, okay? I never said I was in America. I said that America is on my side. The majority of Americans are on my side. Because clearly, when there's all of these protests against Justin Trudeau and the fact that Fox News, MSNBC News, all of these American news stations, they all admit that Americans do not like Justin Trudeau. So that's what I said. I never claimed, in fact, I clearly mentioned the fact that one of those Canadians that is conservative. I'm a conservative Canadian and I don't like Justin Trudeau and I don't agree with what he does and I didn't vote for him. So I never claimed to be from America. I said Americans are on my side with this one. The majority of Americans are on my side. That's what I said. No, that you assumed that I'm on his side. Why would I be on his side? Clearly this meme does not like Justin Trudeau. Like just because there's a picture of him doesn't obviously if you read what it says, clearly I don't like him. Clearly this meme is not a pro Justin Trudeau meme. It's clearly like so just because there's a picture of like see people come in, they see a picture of Justin Trudeau, they think automatically that I must like him. No, just because I'm posting a picture of him doesn't mean I like him. It means that I'm talking the truth about him, how evil he is. He puts transvestite school teachers in schools. Justin Trudeau puts transvestite school teachers in schools. That is sick. That is sick. Absolutely sick. Disgusting. Yeah, because half of America is liberal, and I'm against all liberals. I'm against Canadian liberals, and I'm against American liberals. I'm against both. I'm conservative. I stand with the conservative Americans and I stand with the conservative Canadians. So you're going to see some anti-liberal stuff on my page. Yeah, because there are American liberals too. And I don't agree with those people. I don't agree with all of this, creepy stuff that they do. Why do they think that it's okay to put transvestites as school teachers? Why? Why do they think that's okay? And then why do they think that people are just not going to talk about it? Like we don't have the right to discuss it. There's so many victims. You know how hard it is to expose these people when these politicians have all the money in the world and all the power in the world. It's so easy for them to cover up and get rid of evidence. So when we have a politician who is openly putting transvestite school teachers in schools, that counts as circumstantial evidence. And it's the only circumstantial evidence that the victims have because there was a lot of evil people that wouldn't even, you know what I'm saying? So this is all we got because many victims, we never get justice because they if there's hardcore evidence, anytime there's hardcore evidence, the police and these criminal politicians, they just delete the body cam footage or they delete the footage. So whenever there's hardcore evidence against these sickos, these political sickos, whenever there's hardcore evidence, all they do is just delete the footage. If there was hardcore evidence against Justin Trudeau, you don't think he would delete the footage? These victims, there's a lot of victims, and they never get justice because these politicians delete the footage. So when we have a politician who's a nut job, who is openly putting transvestites in schools, this counts as circumstantial evidence, and it's the only circumstantial evidence that the victims have to getting justice. Because otherwise, like for example, if somebody accused a politician who maybe doesn't hang out with transvestites, there's no credibility because oh, that's a politician. It's the word of this random person versus the word of a politician. He's an elected official. It's his word versus some nobody's word. But now we have a politician who's openly putting transvestites in schools. And we suddenly, all of the victims, we have circumstantial evidence. This counts. This counts as evidence. It's not hardcore evidence like a videotape, because of course, these politicians, these sickos, they just delete the videotapes. So what are the victims supposed to do? What are the victims supposed to do? What else can the victims do when these sicko politicians, they just delete the hardcore evidence? Then all we have to rely on is the fact that we have a gross, creepy politician who puts transvestite school teachers in schools. And that's the evidence right now, the only evidence that we have to go on. There's other evidence too. Don't get me wrong. There are testimonies. There's the victims' testimonies. But right now, a politician who is openly putting transvestite school teachers in schools, this is huge. Like this is big. And he's been putting transvestite school teachers in schools for a while now. I'm not going to get into anything super specific, right? Obvious for obvious reasons, which I will not state because I cannot get into anything super specific, like specific names, specific dates. I will not get into that. But I will say, and generally speaking, that obviously these transvestites, why do they want to be school teachers so bad? Why? The fact that these transvestites want to be school teachers so badly, why? It's a valid question. It's a valid why? Why do they want to be school teachers so badly? Why? I mean, it's a question. It's a valid question. Why do transvestites so badly want to be school teachers? Why? It's just a question, and it's a valid question. Yeah, but you know what? It's not about freedom. Not when they're pushing this transgender stuff onto school onto the schools. No, because people have the freedom to live however they want to live. And when you have transvestites that are pushing their transvestitism onto people, then you're infringing on our rights. Now it's not that, oh, you're saying, oh, they have the freedom, but wait a minute, don't we have the freedom to not want to be transvestites? Don't we have the freedom to choose our lives and live how we want to live? And if we don't want to be around transvestites, that's our choice. They have the choice to live how they want, but you cannot force the transvestite stuff onto me. You cannot force the transgender stuff onto me, because then now you're infringing on my freedom. If you force that stuff on me, you are infringing on my freedom. If they go to the schools and they don't dress up like transvestites and they act normal and they act like real role models, that's different. But we have literally, like, they have transvestite school teachers literally promoting being transvestites to schools. That is so wrong because they are pushing it onto people. They are pushing this stuff onto people. And then not only that, we don't even know what happens behind closed doors. So you cannot have the right to say, "Oh, freedom, freedom," but then push that stuff onto people. You cannot push that stuff onto people because now you're infringing on our freedom. And let me just say to Amber, it's these guys, they're predatory mainly onto women. It's girls. That's why they dress up like girls. That's why they want to go to the girls' bathroom. Okay, see, why everyone is getting confused. This is why these people dress up like women, so that they could use the little girl's bathroom. That's why they dress up like women. They are predatory on girls. These guys are not gay, okay? It's so obvious that they're not gay. It's so obvious that these transgender transvestites are not gay. They're not gay because the reason that they dress up like women is so that they could use the little girls' room because they want to use a bathroom with women, with girls. That's why they dress up like women. It's so obvious. Isn't it obvious? Am I like, is this bizarro world where people can't see how obvious this is? The reason that they dress up like women is so they could use the girls' bathroom, so they could be in the little girls' room. That's why these creeps dress up like girls. That's why these creeps dress up like women, so they could use the women's bathroom. Isn't this obvious? Am I missing something here? No gay man would ever want to use the woman's bathroom. A gay man would never want to use the woman's bathroom. If he's a gay man, trust me, he does not want to use the women's bathroom. Never. Any guy who wants to use the women's bathroom, any guy who dresses up like a woman so that he could specifically use the girls' bathroom is a predator on women, is a creep on women. Like, it's very simple, okay? It literally says it right on the door. Men's change room, women's change room. It literally says it on the door. So anyone who's trying to come in the live stream and contradict what it literally says on the door, you're contradicting what it says on the door. You want to argue with me and tell me that women can use the men's bathroom and can use the women's bathroom when it clearly says on the men's door, men only, and it clearly says on the women's door, women only? You are arguing with, you're contradicting yourselves because you're literally contradicting what the door says. Like, you go to a door and it says men only. You go to a door and it says women only. So clearly, it's safe to say that men use the men's bathroom and women use the women's bathroom because that's what the door says. So if you come in and argue with me and say, oh, it's okay for men to use the women's bathroom, you're not arguing with me. You're arguing with the door. You're arguing with what the door says. So you should go have an argument with the door because everyone else, we are smart and intelligent people and we know how to read what a door says. And if a door says men only or women only, it means men only or women only. It doesn't mean that men can dress up like women and then go use the women's bathroom. That's not what that means when a door says men only or women only. It doesn't say on the women's bathroom, oh, women only, unless you're a man that dresses up like a woman, then it's an exception. It doesn't say that on the women, that there's an exception on the, it says literally, it's very clear on the women's bathroom and on the men's bathroom. The women's bathroom says women only and the men's bathroom says men only. So men use the men's bathroom and women use the women's bathroom. It's very clear. And public bathrooms are gross as it is. Not to mention you have those friggin' creeps that think that it's okay for them to use the women's bathroom just because they dress up like a woman. If they really want to be women, then why don't they get the surgery? That's another good question. If they really want to be women so bad, then why don't they remove the pecker? If they are claiming that they are women and that they're real women, then why won't they remove their pecker? Especially these men who want to use the girls' bathroom and they still have a pecker. They still have their pecker and they want to use the women's bathroom. Oh, obvious creep, even more obvious. You know, at least if they remove the pecker, I'd say, well, what are they gonna do? They remove their pecker. I mean, the whole reason really why women don't want men in the women's bathroom is because of the pecker, right? So if the pecker's gone, then maybe this person really is want to be a woman. But unless they actually remove the pecker, I don't believe I don't believe these people that they're think that they're really women. Because if you really think you're a woman, if you really think you're a woman, wouldn't you? It's logical. Wouldn't you want to remove the pecker? The pecker is what distinguishes a man from a woman, right? No, that's not what I said either. What I'm saying is that no, I didn't say that. That's not. Don't put words in my mouth. Someone came in and just said, "Oh, well, you'd be fine with it if they had the surgery." No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if these people really want to be women so badly, then why aren't they getting the surgery? That doesn't make sense to me. If you want to be a woman so badly, but you're refusing to remove the pecker, that's what I'm saying. Like you can't then suddenly compare apples and oranges. It's two different things. The bottom line, what really matters is that, if someone wants to do something and it only affects themselves, that's one thing. But you cannot push this whole transgender stuff, this transvestite stuff onto people. You can't push it onto people because now then you're infringing on their rights because people have the right to live however they want. And if someone's pushing this transvestite stuff onto them, then their rights are being infringed because they have the right to live however they want. And if they don't want to live like a transvestite, they don't have to live like a transvestite. So if there's a transvestite school teacher trying to push this stuff on the people, that's wrong. It's so obviously wrong. Like, is this bizarre world? Am I the only one that sees how wrong this is? Transvestite school teachers pushing the transvestite stuff on the people? Why can't you just teach math, science, and English, and chemistry, and maybe some history? Like this is what you go to school for. You go to school, you go to education to learn about math, science, history, even an art class, or even French, or German, or whatever, Spanish, or Russian. I speak Russian. You go to school, you go to classes in order to learn these subjects. You don't go to class to learn how to be a transvestite. There was no transvestite 101. That has not been put into the curriculum. The education curriculum has not been put in. Oh, people like, so anyone who tries to deviate from the curriculum, when the curriculum clearly says math, science, history, English, maybe some Russian classes, maybe some Mandarin classes. When it clearly says that, and then someone wants to push now start talking about being a transvestite, that's not in the curriculum. That is not in the school board education, the approved list of subjects. Transvestitism and whatever, that is not part of the education curriculum. So these people are violating what the education curriculum is. And when they go in and they start trying to push this transgender, transvestite stuff on people, they are contradicting and violating the education curriculum. So that is another big point. That is another valid point that I have. I don't have. Listen, what the issue here. This is the issue. Don't put words in my mouth. Don't say that I said that I never said. This is what the issue is. If the curriculum says math, science, English, history, whatever, but the curriculum clearly states not none of this transgender stuff, none of this transvestite stuff, then people who go in and start pushing this transvestite stuff, they are violating the curriculum. They are going against what the education curriculum says. This is what people got together and they all agreed that the education curriculum is going to teach math, it's going to teach science, it's going to teach history, etc. It never said that they were going to teach how to be a transvestite or a transgender drag queen. So anyone who now goes and pushes this transvestite stuff into schools, you are not only being inappropriate, but you are violating what the education curriculum is. Because the education curriculum never allowed or permitted any kind of education about being a transvestite or any of that stuff. So this is, you're arguing with what the education curriculum says. You're not arguing with me. You're not disagreeing with me. You're disagreeing with what the education curriculum is. You're going against what the education curriculum is. So you're really arguing against the education curriculum. I'm talking about the one. What let's be clear here. I am talking about the transvestite transgender school teachers that go to the school dressed up like transvestites. I'm not talking about the ones that just do that stuff on their own time and then go to school dressed like normal people. That's not what I'm talking about. So don't twist my words. Don't twist my words and say that a transvestite cannot go to the school dressed like normally. If you're going to school and you're dressing like in one of those parades, that is inappropriate. That is so inappropriate. That is so inappropriate. The people who dress up at those parades, they're creepy. That's inappropriate attire. That is inappropriate, unprofessional attire. Explain to me how someone with a tattoo will be denied a job because they have a tattoo. But then you have these people that dress up like transvestites and then they go around and then they dress inappropriately. And because you know what I mean by inappropriately. Inappropriately means showing what you're not supposed to show. That's what inappropriate means. Because it's one thing to just dress up like a woman. That's different. There's a difference between dressing up like a woman and then being inappropriate. And inappropriate is clearly those pride parades. Those parades where half dressed, where they're not wearing clothes. Those parades where they're not wearing clothes, that is not appropriate attire. That is not appropriate attire for the public workplace. That is not appropriate attire. So obviously, when I'm talking, I am talking about the transvestites that dress up like transvestites and go to school and try to push the transvestite stuff onto people. That's what I'm talking about. Let's make that very clear. There are people doing that, Lucy. Welcome, Lucy, to the live stream. There are transvestite school teachers in Canada that dress up like transvestites at the schools. And that's a form Like you are by like it's these people are supposed to be role models, and so if that's how they're pushing the transvestite stuff onto people by going to schools dressing up like transvestites. That's you are now pushing that onto people. It's hard enough as it is to be in math class or English class, and like okay, I'm going to admit it. I'm not the smartest person. I'm going to admit it. I will admit I have no shame in admitting that I am not the smartest person. So I struggled in English class because my first language is Russian and I'm fluent. I speak fluent Russian. So in English class I struggled. They called me dumb. They called me dumb in English class. Um, but I was very good at math and science. I had like 100% in every math and science course, but I struggled in English because English was my second language growing up because my first language is Russian. So it's hard enough as it is to be a student. And then on top of it, your teacher tries to like push transvestite hour onto people. Like, imagine being a student. Not only do you have to put up with passing your exams, but then on top of it, your teacher comes in and starts like throwing beads around and like tries to make people dress up like women. Like that's so creepy and uncomfortable. It's hard enough as it is to be a student. It happens in Canada. It does. This is a Canadian picture. See all of these Americans coming in and says, "Oh, where are the transvestite school teachers? Where are they? Where are they?" It's in Canada. This is a Canadian picture that Justin Trudeau's Canadian. He was the Prime Minister of Canada for like whatever, 10, 20 years. It's all happening in Canada. There's transvestite school teachers in Canada. And there's actually a video where Justin Trudeau, on one of his political campaign promises, he talks about transgender kids. It's a video. It's all over YouTube. If you just Google search Prime Minister Justin Trudeau transgender kids, he definitely has an opinion on transgender kids, Justin Trudeau. So it's there. The video is on YouTube. Everyone has a dress code, right? When someone goes to a workplace, we all have a dress code. People get fired even just for having a tattoo on their forehead. So explain to me the difference between a dress code and firing someone for having a tattoo on their forehead, but then it's okay for a man to go to a school dressed up like a woman, and then not only dressed up like a woman, but then trying to push the transvestite stuff onto people. Now you're infringing on their rights. People have the right to go to math class and not to try to be persuaded to be a transvestite. Okay, if you're in math class, you should be learning math. Math is what math class is for. Math class is not to talk about trying to convince people to become transvestites. That's not what math class is for. It very clearly says on the door, math class, mathematics, parabolas, calculus, differential equations, chi-square, multivariable calculus. That's what math class is for. Vectors, trigonometry, cosine, tangent. Like that's what math class is for. Pythagorean theorem. Pythagorean theorem. This is what math class is for. Math class is not supposed to be transvestite hour. Yes, so obviously, if the person dresses according to dress code, that's fine. I am talking about the transvestite teachers that dress up like transvestites. And not only dress up like transvestites, but they dress up like the way they dress up at those parades. And if you've seen those parades, that is not appropriate attire. That's not even appropriate attire for public, let alone schools. And two, the other thing too, right? You have to realize is like imagine if you're in math class or English class like me, because I always had questions in English class because my first language is Russian, so I struggled in English class. So I always had questions in English class. But for example, let's say you're in mathematics class and you have a question and your teacher is full on drag queen transvestite. Is the student going to feel comfortable asking the teacher a question? Especially, what if he needs to talk to the teacher after class? Be alone with the teacher after class. Is the student going to feel comfortable? Maybe that student who has a legitimate mathematics question, who needs mathematics tutoring, will not feel comfortable going to the teacher after class alone with the teacher because the teacher is dressed up like a transvestite. This is I'm asking how students feel. This is how students opinions of students. This is not my opinion. This has left my opinion. This is now asking the opinions of students, whether right or wrong. Whether right or wrong, like this is what I'm saying. This is a hypothetical situation that has nothing to do with my personal opinion now. This is a question. If there is a person who has a legitimate mathematics question and they are a student, do you think that they might not actually not feel comfortable going to the teacher after class to get the mathematics tutoring that they need because the teacher is a transvestite? So I'm not saying that the student needs to accept these. Listen, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is there are a lot of people that are probably suffering in their education because they're afraid to ask the teacher a question. Because the teacher pushes all of this political stuff. And listen, it's not just the transgender stuff. It's not just the transvestite stuff. Because there's also teachers pushing other stuff, like trying to shame people, like trying to make people feel bad. Like, for example, I remember when I was in high school, the girls were very thin. And one of the teachers was very heavy. And she would shame the thin girls. The thin girls, who were just, as many of them were just naturally thin, they weren't, the heavy teacher, the overweight teacher, would suddenly start yelling and making jokes about how thin the girls were, suggesting that they might have eating disorders because they're overly thin. So now you have a female teacher who's overweight, who is actually thin shaming. She is thin shaming the thin girls. Is that appropriate? Because if they're the other way around, if it were the other way around, if it were a thin teacher shaming girls that were overweight, that would be, all over social media. People would be yelling from the rooftops how inappropriate that is. So when it's the other way around, when it's an overweight teacher shaming thin girls who are naturally thin, who might just be thin because they work out and they eat healthy, and now you have an overweight teacher suggesting that maybe these thin girls are thin because they have an eating disorder. That is so offensive. That is offensive. Imagine you're a girl or a man, anybody, and you work hard, you work out, you eat healthy, you're thin, you eat healthy, you thin, you work out, and then a teacher who's overweight shames you into being thin, makes fun of you for being thin. That is inappropriate. That is 100% inappropriate. So it's not just the transgender stuff. There's more. There's a lot of stuff that teachers do that's so inappropriate. I'm not overweight. No, I'm thin actually. Did you not listen to the story? Did you not just listen to the story? I'm complaining about an overweight teacher that we had in high school who was making fun of thin girls. That's fine. If they're overweight, that's fine. I don't have, obviously, if they're overweight, that's fine. Oh, of course it's unhealthy. It's not healthy to be overweight, especially when you're extremely overweight. It's not healthy. But if they're overweight, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we had an overweight teacher who was thin shaming. She was making fun of thin girls, suggesting that the girls were thin because they had eating disorders. She actually said, one girl, she said, "Hey, Vanessa, do you have bulimia?" She asked this girl right in the middle of the class. She's like, why are you so thin, Vanessa? Do you have bulimia? This is what a teacher said. She was actually one of the English teachers. One of the English teachers that I had, she was an overweight teacher. And she actually said to one of the girls in the class, hey, Vanessa, why are you so thin? Do you have bulimia? Is that appropriate to say to a thin girl? Maybe the girl's thin because she works out, she's healthy, and she's just naturally thin. But for an overweight female teacher to start thin shaming the girls and making the girls feel bad for being thin, that is inappropriate, is it not? Is this bizarre world? Do people not see how inappropriate that is? So this is more than just the transvestite stuff. There was a lot of stuff in high school that was very inappropriate from the teachers. So let's call a spade a spade. Let's call out everybody. Let's call out all the inappropriate behavior that the teachers do. I did not lose any viewers. No, the streams always fluctuate. The streams constantly. Sometimes for 10 minutes I'll have 0 viewers. Then for 20 minutes it'll be like 1,000 viewers every second. Then for the next 20 minutes it'll be 5 viewers. Then the next 20 minutes it doesn't matter what I'm saying. The streams always fluctuate. Someone came in the live stream and tried saying, oh, he just lost 20 viewers. No, I didn't, or whatever, 200 viewers. No, I didn't. Okay, people just come in and go constantly. Sometimes I'll have streams where I don't even talk, where I just have a picture, and suddenly people will come in, people will leave, people will come in. It's just people are just naturally coming in and out of the live stream. I don't know why you're trying to. What did I say that was wrong? I literally said a door. If it says men's bathroom, it's for men. If the door says women's bathroom, it's for women. Education curriculum. What are the approved subjects of the education curriculum? Math, science, history, geometry, calculus, advanced chemistry, stoichemistry, organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry, physics, nuclear physics. These are, or not nuclear physics, physics. These are the appropriate subjects in high school and in the education curriculum. Transvestitism and transgenderism has not been an approved education curriculum topic. So anyone who's arguing with me, you're not arguing with me, you're actually arguing with the education curriculum that was approved. So this has nothing to do with me saying, oh, like I'm the first one. I am the first one to say to everyone, everyone gets to live how they want to live, but not when you're pushing your transvestitism onto other people. No, now you're infringing on other people's rights to live because you're trying to push your transvestitism onto other people. So let's make that very clear. So education curriculum, okay, it's very clear what the education curriculum says. And even if the transvestite doesn't talk about being a transvestite, the fact that they're dressed up like a transvestite in math class will make people extremely uncomfortable. It'll extremely make the men extremely. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care. Listen. It's not about. Sure, people will accept it, but it's what I'm saying is people will feel uncomfortable. That's the truth. That is just flat out truth. That is just flat out truth. If your math teacher is a transvestite, you will feel extremely uncomfortable going to class. That is just the truth. Whether you agree with it or not, whether you are open about it, whether it's right or wrong, the fact is that there's just a lot of people that will feel uncomfortable because when they go to math class, they're expecting to learn mathematics. They're not expecting to be. So if a teacher is dressed up like a transvestite, it's very distracting. I mean, they have rules about having tattoos and about dyeing your hair. So what's the difference? Why are teachers able to avoid these rules? They have rules for students too. They have a dress code for students. They literally have dress codes for students where they say you can't put a nose ring in your nose. Like you can't have a. You see those people that have piercings all over their face and then they have like light reflectors, and then they have glow sticks coming out of their nose. Like, they have dress codes in schools too for students. They have dress codes. Okay, so why are transvestite teachers allowed to avoid the dress code? That the same dress code that even applies to students. Not every school, but I went to a high school. I went to a high school which had a dress code. It even had a uniform. It had a uniform, it had dress code, and they would not tolerate someone with a tattoo on their forehead that said something vulgar. It was actually mentioned by one of my students, not one of my students, one of my teachers, sorry. It was actually mentioned by one of my teachers. I'm not a student or a teacher anymore. I actually work in marketing. I work at a marketing firm. That's what I do. I work in advertising and marketing. I work for a Russian company. I speak fluent Russian. That's what I do. But one of my teachers actually said that one time a student had a tattoo on his forehead that said something extremely inappropriate. He was 17. He got a tattoo, and he put the tattoo on his forehead, and the tattoo said something extremely inappropriate. And it was actually the student was expelled, which is like, it became this big issue in high school because the student's freedom of speech to put a tattoo on his head that said something really vulgar. But it was a gray issue. I'm not saying that I disagree. I agree, whatever. I'm just telling you what happened. I'm just telling you we had a case in our high school where the teacher was saying one of the students who was 17 decided to get a tattoo, and he put a tattoo right on his forehead, and it was extremely vulgar. And then he was expelled. So I'm not saying that the school was right. I'm not saying the school was wrong. I'm just telling you what happened. So even students have a dress code. Students have a dress code. So why aren't transvestite school teachers held to the same standard of the dress code? If a dress code says you cannot wear flashy things, you could not wear flashy t-shirts, you could not have a glow stick coming out of your nose. If the dress code is very clear about that with students, then why are these transvestite teachers able to escape the dress code? It's a valid question. I can't say what the tattoo was because it was vulgar. I can't say what it said on the guy's face because it was vulgar. I can't repeat it. But I'm telling you that one of my teachers said that there was an issue in the high school one time because one of the students went to school and violated the dress code by having a tattoo on his forehead that was extremely vulgar. But obviously, I can't say what it said on his forehead, but apparently it said something extremely vulgar on his forehead. So this was my point. If students have a dress code, if there's a dress code for students, then shouldn't this dress code also apply for the teachers? How is a transvestite teacher able to get away with violating the dress code, but the student has to adhere to it? That doesn't make sense. Everyone should have to adhere. And especially when these people are supposed to be role models, right? Imagine you go to class and imagine if the teacher is violating the dress code, but then expects the students to follow the dress code. Like, a lot of these teachers are hypocrites. In fact, remember the YouTube video? Wasn't there a YouTube video? I swear, I remember one where, and keep in mind, English is my second language, so hold on. But I'm pretty sure there was a YouTube video where there was a teacher who was trying to push voting for Obama onto students. That's so wrong. Like, to try to shame, she was shaming the parents. Obviously the students can't vote because they were 17, 18. Obviously, if the students in 17, 18, they can't vote, right? But what she was shaming was she was in class, it was history class, and she was doing a history lesson, and the teacher was saying something along the lines of, oh, any parents who don't vote for Obama are racist. Like, imagine saying that to a bunch of students. That's awful. People have the right to vote for whoever they want. If they don't want to vote for Obama, it doesn't mean they're racist just because they don't want to vote for Obama. Imagine a history teacher actually saying something along the lines of, oh, if the parents don't vote for Obama, it means they're racist. So suddenly, all of these students are going to think that their parents are racist if they don't vote for Obama. That is so wrong. That is absolutely wrong. And of course, these teachers, they're always trying to push their political opinions onto other people. That's not what history class is for. History class is not for trying to convince people or shame people into voting for Obama. That's not history. That's not what history class is for. History class is to teach history. And if they want to vote for Obama because they just want to vote for Obama, then that's fine. They can vote for whoever they want. But for a history teacher to start shaming the students, to try saying, oh, if the parents don't vote for Obama, it's because they're racist. What? That is ridiculous. That is absolutely unacceptable and ridiculous. No one should push their political opinions on anybody. No, I don't actually. No, Captain, I don't. I don't agree. I don't agree with that. I think math class should be for math. History should be for history. English should be for English. It's very simple. It literally says it on the door. Math class, English class, history class. If anything is taught other than math, history, or English in those classes, that is, you're violating the education curriculum. Okay? This is nothing to do with my opinion. This is literally people, teachers, are violating the education curriculum when they try to push their political opinions on other people. And then also to look at these colleges. Okay, does Charlie Kirk? Charlie Kirk. Listen, I'm not saying I agree with him. I'm not. In fact, all of these people who try to say that, oh, you're Russian, so you voted for Trump, or you like Trump because you're Russian. That's not true. First off, if I'm Russian, it could mean many things. It could mean I like just because I'm Russian doesn't mean I voted for Trump. That's so wrong. So this Charlie Kirk guy, he went out and flat out said he thinks college is a scam. He thinks college is a scam. It's a waste of money. College, he flat out said it. He flat out said it. And I think to myself, you know what? I may not fully agree with what he said because I do think in certain cases college is actually very beneficial. I am very pro education. I am extremely pro education, but I'm also pro freedom of speech. So when you have someone like me who's extremely pro education but pro freedom of speech, I can take something that Charlie Kirk said, and when he said college is a scam, and I could turn around and say, you know what? I may not fully agree with that because I do think that there are college programs which are beneficial, but I totally respect and I applaud your freedom of speech because I have never heard anybody else publicly like a public figure. Obviously, I've heard other people say college is a scam, but I've never heard a public figure, a political figure, get up on stage and say college is a scam. I have never heard that from anybody else. So I appreciate his freedom of speech. But just because I'm Russian doesn't mean that I'm gonna vote for Charlie Kirk or I voted for Trump. Like I can't stand when people assume things. Don't ever assume things. You know, you have an English expression. We have a similar expression in Russian, and you have an English expression. When you assume things about people, you make an A out of you and me, right? Remember that English expression? Never assume things about people. So don't assume that just because I'm Russian means that I voted for Trump and I'm a Trump supporter, whatever. Also, because I'm Canadian and I can't even vote for Trump. I clearly never voted for Trump because I'm a Russian Canadian. How could I vote for Trump when I'm a Russian Canadian? Now, that being said, it doesn't mean I don't like Trump or I don't agree with half of what he says. What I'm saying is don't just assume because I'm Russian that I'm going to vote for Trump or I did vote for Trump. You know, it's extremely offensive when you're growing up and you're Russian to see all of this anti Russian propaganda. Okay, sure, the adults know that it's just half of it's entertainment, half of it's for fun, half of it's just political people who are bored, half of it's news anchors and journalists who are bored. But if you're growing up and you're Russian, it actually hurts you. It like it basically it's offensive. It's offensive to watch all of these Hollywood movies and the Russians are always being portrayed as terrorists. You remember that Friends episode? You remember that Friends episode where Joey goes into the dry cleaner and the dry cleaner's Russian, and then the Russian dry cleaner gets mad and he says, "Oh, you're in a TV show, Joey. You're in a TV show that portrays Russians as terrorists." And the Russian dry cleaner doesn't want to serve him dry cleaning no more because he's offended that Joey is in a TV show that makes the Russians look like terrorists. And you know what? I would estimate that 90% of Hollywood movies, they do portray Russians as the terrorists. 90% of Hollywood movies, Hollywood TV shows portray Russians as terrorists. So that joke on Friends, that episode of Friends where Joey goes in and the Russian dry cleaner gets offended because Joey's in a TV show that portrays the Russians as terrorists, you know, there's some truth there. There's truth there because if you are Russian and you're growing up and you're constantly seeing all these Hollywood movies where the Russians are the terrorists, of course you're gonna feel bad. Of course it's gonna hit your subconscious a bit. It is. It's not fair. Because the truth is that there are bad people in every ethnic, like there's bad people everywhere. So when Hollywood movies, when 90% of Hollywood movies portray Russians as terrorists, you don't think that that makes Russians feel bad? And maybe it's going to be like a monkey see, monkey do kind of thing. Maybe it's going to like these people are impressionable. These Russians are impressionable. Everyone's impressionable. If you're growing up and your ethnicity is Russian and suddenly you're typecasted, you're stereotyped as you know all of these Hollywood movies portray the Russians as the bad guys. How do you think that's going to make you feel? It wouldn't make, you know, it did it. I thought it was funny. I mean, I didn't really care. I mean, but there's probably Russians that actually were offended. I wasn't. I didn't care. I didn't. I just thought it was funny, and I thought that Friends episode with Joey and the dry cleaner was funny. I was just actually happy to see I just love seeing it's funny when the Russians get on TV. I just thought that was funny. I didn't care. I don't care, but I'm just telling you that other Russians, I could totally see them getting offended. I could see them feeling offended a bit because for constantly 90% of Hollywood movies, constantly the Russians are the bad guys, the Russians are the terrorists. So another thing that is kind of offensive to Russia, which it's offensive to me. This is this is offensive to me. I'm Russian. I'm an ethnic Russian, but I do speak fluent English because I learned English for years. I had to take extra classes in English. So that's why my English sounds perfect. But believe me, when I was growing up, my English was bad. Like I had a really thick Russian accent. So this is what offends me. Russia has been banned from the Eurovision Song Contest. The Eurovision Song Contest, you've probably seen it. It's pretty famous in Europe, the Eurovision Song Contest. They banned Russia, the entire country. What did the Russian singers do? Russian singers didn't do the war. Russian singers didn't do the war. Why are Russian singers being punished? This is against ethnicity. This is a violation of ethnicity. This is discrimination against ethnicity because Russian singers had nothing to do with the war. So why are Russian singers being punished and being banned from entering the Eurovision Song Contest? And you know who was there? This was, I think, last year or the year before or this year. It was in the last few years. It was either the last year, the year before, or this year. I can't remember exactly which year, but it was in the last few years. Finland. Let's talk about what Finland did. Finland. Let's talk about what they did at the Eurovision Song Contest. I understand that it's entertainment. And listen, I agree that a lot of times it's a gray area. Entertainment is a gray area. But let's look at this song, this one of the songs. It was called Windows 95 Man. Windows 95 Man, which is a parody music group, they were a parody. They got on stage and the guy was flashing the audience. He was like as if he was a flasher. Like those people, those creeps who go around flashing people, like those flashers. This was an actual musical performance on the Eurovision Song Contest. The same Eurovision that banned Russia, an entire country of talented people, the same Eurovision Song Contest that banned Russia now has a musical group from Finland who gets on stage and is flashing the public, and it's a big joke. The guy's going around and he makes it look like he's really not wearing clothes. And they're able to angle it just right so it actually looks like he's not wearing clothes. And he's going around flashing the public. And this is a Eurovision Song Contest song. So you're telling me that Eurovision Song Contest has standards? Oh, they have high standards, eh? And that's why they're banning all of Russia from entering the Eurovision Song Contest. But then they allow the country Finland to have a musical group that makes jokes and gets on stage and the guy's flashing people. And it was called Windows 95 Man. That was the musical group. It was called Windows 9. You can look this up. This isn't a fake story. This is real. This is anyone who tries to say, oh, that's a fake story. It's not. This is real. This really happened. This is a real musical group from Finland. You could search the songs on YouTube. It's on. This is how do you think I became aware of this song? From YouTube. The song's on YouTube. It's called Windows 95 Man. The musical group is from Finland. They're representing Finland in the Eurovision Song Contest. And the guy gets on stage and is flashing people and thinks this is a big joke to the people, to flash people in public. He thinks it's a joke. And sure, it's entertainment and it's supposed to meant to be funny. I'm sure he meant it to be funny. But my point is, this is my point. You're telling me that the Eurovision Song Contest has these such high standards that they're going to ban Russia, an entire country of talented people, in participating in the Eurovision Song Contest, but they're not going to call, but they think it's okay for Finland, the guy from Finland, to get up and start flashing everyone as a joke. So they're hypocrites. They're being hypocrites. That's what they are. And it's all about money. This war has always been about money. It's all about money. They're hypocrites. They claim to have these such high standards, but then they allow Finland, the musical group from Finland, the guy to go around flashing people on stage. And that's a big joke. They were punished. They weren't allowed. Russia was not allowed to participate in the Eurovision Song Contest. That's punishment. That's the discrimination against these Russian singers. These Russian singers, many of them had nothing to do with the war. Many of them are probably against the war, these Russian singers, and they have been banned from participating in the Eurovision Song Contest just for the fact that they're Russian. That is discrimination against ethnic Russians. That is discrimination. Now, this isn't just about Finland, which, by the way, I really know nothing about Finland other than that music video. So I really don't know anything about Finland. Now I know something about Finland. But let's also talk about Britain and what the UK did, because that was, they weren't flashing people, but it was so creepy. Like, if creepy, clearly creepy is a word. It's was the word creepy was invented for a reason. Sometimes things come off as creepy. They just do. That's just a feeling. Sometimes people get creeped out by things. So if you watch the British entry into the Eurovision Song Contest, is the UK Britain UK Britain Britain. If you watch what they did one year, like it was so creepy, like extremely creepy. I can't even say it. I can't even go into detail because it was so creepy and inappropriate that one time. Like it was the guy was creepy. Like he was like total creep. Like he was creepy. It just was creepy. Creepy, creepy, creepy. Now I don't like I'm very pro freedom of speech. So, obviously, I'm not saying that he's a creep. What I'm saying is it came off as creepy. Sometimes things get awkward. Sometimes things get creepy. I don't like when women, though, or men, I don't like when anybody just says, oh, that person is a creep for no reason. That's different. But what I'm saying is this guy was coming off as very creepy, very extremely creepy. And like music is meant to be interpreted different ways, okay? And interesting enough, hold on a sec. Hold on a sec. Interesting enough. Let's go to a different singer. Let's go to an American singer right now. So explain to me something. And keep in mind, English is my second language. My first language is Russian. Okay. But and I know she's an entertainer, and I know she's a music and an entertainer, an American entertainer. But Beyonce, let's talk about Beyonce. Let's talk about Beyonce for a second. Beyonce has two different songs, very different songs. And keep in mind, I'm not saying she's right or wrong. I'm not saying that the songs are right or wrong, but I'm just saying that Beyonce is a role model. And part of being a role model is being genuine. And that's part of being a role model. So Beyonce has two different music videos. And one of the music videos, she says, I'm a American woman. I'm a survivor. I pay my own bills. I bought it. If I want to buy something, I buy it. I'm an independent woman. You remember the Independent Woman song by Beyonce, Independent Woman? It was for the Charlie's Angels soundtrack. It was for the Charlie's Angels movie, Independent Woman. She's an independent woman. She buys everything herself. But then in another music video, in another song, she says, can you pay my bills? Can you pay my telephone bills? Can you pay my auto phone bills? Like, so she's in one of the music videos, she's claiming to be this independent woman who pays for everything herself, and she's such a role model to women. But then in another music video, she wants the guy to pay her bills for him. Or she wants the guy to pay her bills for her. Like, I'm not saying that the song was bad, or I'm not saying that the music wasn't good. I mean, it was a catchy song, right? But what I'm saying is she genuine? I mean, it's a question. It's a valid question. Is that a genuine singer? Because this is what I like. I like when a singer sings something they actually believe in. I like when a singer sings a song maybe they wrote themselves, or even if they didn't write themselves, at least they believe what they're saying. So I don't like all of this auto-tune stuff. I don't like all of this fake stuff where people have these fake images and they're two-faced. I don't like that. I like it when a singer is genuine and actually believes what they're singing. And so for Beyonce to have one music video where she's saying, oh, I'm an independent woman and I pay for everything myself. I'm such a role model. I'm such a successful role model to women. And then another music video, she's saying, can you pay my bills? Can you pay my... She wants the guy to pay for her. It's contradictory. It's just, I don't know. It's not genuine. And then, okay, it's not just women. Hold on. Let's go to a guy's video now first time. Hold on. Let's go to a guy's video. Let's go to the Robin Thicke music video. This one was big. This one was... Okay, now you want to know creepy. Here you go. So let's go to the Robin Thicke music video called Blurred Lines. Blurred Lines. Blurred was a hard... I had a hard time saying blurred when I was growing up. Anyways, I'm Russian. English is my second language, but anyways. So Blurred Lines is the name of the music video by Robin Thicke. And this Blurred Lines music video was people... I wasn't the one saying it. It was everyone else that was saying it. And I was just reading what other people were saying. It is extremely, like, creepy. Because what he's saying in the video is he's saying, oh, it's blurred lines. And then he says, you know you want it. You know you want it. His lyrics, the lyrics in the Robin Thicke music video, Blurred Lines, he keeps saying, you know you want it. It's blurred lines, you know you want it. Like, and all of these women, these American and Canadian women, were going crazy on the chat rooms over this song, saying this song is so, like, borderline, you know. So it's better, in my opinion, if you're a musician, you should sing songs that you believe in. You should sing songs that you actually believe the words you're saying. Or else you could, I mean, it's not a good look on my part. I mean, I work in marketing. I work in marketing. This is public relations. Okay? So I'm just telling you like it is. Like, it's better for a singer, in my opinion, to sing songs that they actually believe what they're saying. And not just some auto-tuned, you know, someone else wrote the lyrics for them, some other crap. Again, I am very liberal. I'm not liberal. I am pro freedom of speech. I'm conservative, but I'm very pro freedom of speech. So I agree with Beyonce in her freedom of speech. The fact that she has the right to sing whatever she wants to sing. All I'm saying is if she has one music video that's so contradictory from the other music video, it seems kind of ingenuine. It doesn't seem genuine. What am I supposed to believe? If you play these music videos back to back, in one music video she's saying she's such an independent woman and she pays for herself, and in the next music video she wants the guy to pay for her, and she thinks the guy's a loser if he doesn't pay for her. Like, imagine listening to these music videos back to back. Which, by the way, another group of people, and keep in mind, I mean, these group of people were not innocent in World War II. But another ethnic group that constantly, like, you can't turn on the television without seeing at least one reference every so often, constantly about Germans being Nazis. So it's all over. Like, there's how many Hollywood movies? How many Hollywood movies has portrayed Germans as Nazis? I'm from Russia, and we have a Victory Day parade. Every year, we have a Victory Day parade where we celebrate the fact that Russia defeated the Nazis in World War II, the Germans. So I'm not going to fully go on Germany's bandwagon, no, but I'm a fair person and I'm going to call a spade a spade. There are lots of Germans who had nothing to do with World War II and are not Nazis. So when you're growing up, just like how they portray Russians as terrorists in movies, they love to portray the Russians as terrorists, which it can definitely affect your self-esteem if you're Russian. In a lot of Hollywood movies, they portray Germans as Nazis. And I'm not saying that Germans, obviously many Germans know that these movies are just for entertainment, they're historical, but it still affects you. It really does. It affects your self-esteem. Impressionable people. A lot of people are very impressionable. It just, even you could take the person that is the most confident person If they see 20 Hollywood movies portraying Germans as Nazis, it's still going to affect them subconsciously. It just is. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not saying the Germans were Nazis. I'm not saying they weren't Nazis. What I'm saying is that if you're a person, whether you're Russian or German, and you're growing up and you're seeing constant Hollywood movies portraying Germans as Nazis, Russians as terrorists, it's going to affect your self-esteem. It just is. Interesting enough, I don't actually of like I'm not even gonna go there in terms of say who was right or wrong. I'm not gonna say who was right or wrong. I'm gonna say between Japan and America, both sides were fighting. Because I really don't know who was right or wrong. I really don't know who started it first. I don't know who started it first between America and Germany. I don't know who started it first between America and Japan. I don't know who started it first between America and the Middle East. I don't know who started it first between America and Korea. I don't know who started it first between America and Vietnam. I don't know because I wasn't there. I know what they say who started it first. I know what the history books say. I know what these history books say. Anyone can regurgitate what a history book says. What I'm saying is that I wasn't there and the media constantly lies. The media is always telling lies. Donald Trump, what does he say? Fake news, fake news. Donald Trump is constantly saying fake news. So what I'm saying is that this is what they say happened. They say that the Japanese started it or they say that the Germans started it. But really, if you weren't there yourself, we really don't know for sure. We know what other people say. We know what the history books say, but the winners write the history books. Just because someone wins a war doesn't mean that they were the good guys. A lot of times, the bad guys win the wars. In fact, usually, the people who win wars are people who they fight dirty. They're not honorable people. A lot of times, the honorable heroes, these honorable people that are the good guys, they often lose. They lose a lot. They lose the wars because they're not willing to fight dirty. And the people who fight dirty, they're usually the ones who win the wars, usually. Not always, but a lot of times. So if we're going to look back at history, I really can't say for sure 100%. I'm not saying that obviously I can have an opinion and say who I think was started it, but I really can't say for sure who was the good guys and the bad guys in the previous wars. And even today, someone just in the comments admitted, now we're starting to find, because of media and social media and because of new historical documents being released, now, especially with the JFK files, now we're starting to see new information about these people. And we're getting a different view on Germany. We're getting a different view on Japan. We're getting a different view on Vietnam. We're getting a different view on Korea. We're getting a different view on the war with America in the Middle East. Now we're getting their sides of the story. You know, when we were growing up, we didn't really hear Japan's side of the story, did we? Did we hear Germany's side of the story when we were growing up? No. Did we hear Vietnam's side of the story? Did we hear Korea's side of the story? We heard America's side of the story. When we were growing up, we always heard, oh, the Russians, they always portrayed in Hollywood movies, they portrayed the Russians as the terrorists, they portrayed the Germans as the Nazis, and they always portrayed the Americans as the good guys. And so when we were growing up, we always heard America's side of the story. They portrayed the Japanese as the bad guys in World War II. They portrayed the Germans as the bad guys. They portrayed the Russians as terrorists in Hollywood movies. So we're always hearing America's side. But did we ever really hear Japan's side of the story? Did we ever really hear Germany's side of the story? Did we ever really hear Russia's side of the story? Did we hear Vietnam's side of the story? No, in all of these wars, the war between America and Germany, the war between America and Japan, the war between America and Vietnam, the war between America and Korea, the war between America and the Middle East, the war between America and the native peoples, in all of these wars, we've only heard really, usually, most of us have only really heard America's side of the story. But maybe we should listen, maybe just saying, it's a question, it's a valid question. Aren't you curious as a human being? Aren't you curious to hear Japan's side of the story? Aren't you curious to hear Germany's side of the story? Aren't you curious to hear Russia's side of the story? Aren't you curious to hear Korea's side of the story? Vietnam's side of the story? No, we're always hearing America's side of the story. You should hear both sides of the story. Anytime you want to make an educated opinion on something, you should hear both sides of the story. Not just America's side of the story, and not even just Germany's side of the story. You should hear both sides of the story. I'm just saying in general speaking. I mean, this is wisdom for people. Like always listen to both sides of the story. I don't ever just listen to the one person side of the story. That's happened all the time. And especially with two females. Why is it not always two females? Sometimes it was two males, okay. But for example, one time this woman came up to me and she said, "Oh, don't be friends with her. She's this and she's that." I'm like, okay, but I work with her, so I'm not just gonna snub her in the workplace. Like this woman expects me to suddenly stop being friends with someone in the workplace just because she doesn't like her no more. Okay, so you don't like this other female coworker in the workplace, and you don't want me to be friends with her. I have to work with this person, so I'm gonna have to maintain some sort of cordial relationship. I'm sorry, but this is a ridiculous request. This isn't high school. This was a job that I had after high school, right after high school. This was a job I had right after high school, but it wasn't high school. We're not in high school no more. So I know that you don't like this coworker, but I still have to work with her. So I still have to be cordial with her. So even though you don't like her, doesn't mean that I'm suddenly gonna start shunning her. And this is a lot of times. These are bullies. These are bullies who try to make people gang up on other people. Oh, don't talk to that person. Don't talk to that person. Don't talk to that person. Like imagine they do that all the time also with ethnics. They do it with Russians. That's the purpose of these Hollywood movies. They're trying to portray Russians as terrorists, Germans as Nazis. Like now with Japan, if you notice, they're starting to do a lot more Japanese World War II movies too with Japan. Why is that? And another thing, why is Tulsi Gabbard? Hold on, let's go to Tulsi Gabbard, the director of National Defense. Let's go to the director of National Defense, Tulsi Gabbard. So, Japan has been a trusted ally of the United States for years. For many years, for decades, Japan has proven themselves as a trusted ally of the United States after World War II. Of course, in World War II, Japan was enemies of the United States. But since World War II, for decades, Japan has been a trusted ally of the United States. So explain to me, and this is on YouTube. You could watch this on YouTube. This is where I saw it. How do you think I know about it? From YouTube. Tulsi Gabbard, it's on YouTube. She is being questioned at a committee, some kind of See, I'm Canadian, so I don't know exactly what it's called, but it was some sort of DNI committee, Director of National Intelligence Committee or something. Anyways, so Tulsi Gabbard was being questioned, and she said they asked her. They asked Tulsi Gabbard. They asked her, why did you make comments that you're worried about Japan building up their infrastructure? So apparently, Tulsi Gabbard a few years ago had made comments saying that she was worried about Japan building up their army, building up their infrastructure. Why would the director of national intelligence, why would the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, say and shame Japan after Japan has been such a strong ally of the United States? Japan has proven themselves to be a trusted ally of the United States. And then for Tulsi Gabbard, just a few years ago, to make a comment saying that she doesn't trust the Japanese, she's worried about Japan building their infrastructure, she's really concerned about Japan building up their army. That's like a big slap in the face to the Japanese. The Japanese have been, even the Russians admit, like the Russians don't like the fact. Anyways, no, but what I'm saying is that Japan, right? Japan is a trusted ally of the United States. Why would suddenly Tulsi Gabbard? It's like Japan is America's best friend. It's been America's best friend for decades. And Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, gets on stage and says that she's worried about Japan building up their infrastructure. She's concerned. She doesn't trust the Japanese. That's basically what she's saying. She basically implied that she doesn't trust the Japanese. Okay, she didn't verbatim say that she doesn't trust the Japanese, but clearly that's what she implied. In my opinion, what she was implying was that she doesn't trust the Japanese. She's worried. She said she's concerned about Japan building up their infrastructure, building up their army. Why? Japan has been America's ally for decades. Okay, let's read the comments. It's hard to talk and read the comments at the same time. So, especially when I'm speaking in English, which is my second language. So, because my first language is Russian. So let me just scroll up a little bit and see let me catch up on the comments. Wow, I can't scroll up too much because I'd be here forever. So let me just scroll up. Let me just scroll up a bit. Let me just scroll up a bit because I can't. There's a lot of comments. There's like a lot of comments, Kate. Someone wants to debate with me, but they didn't say what their debate topic was. I don't understand. What are you wanting to debate me? What's the topic? What do you disagree with me on? It just says they're offering me, they want to debate me. About what? What do you want to debate me about? I don't understand. Well, since we're on the topic of Japan, so now, okay, so this person came in, Nat. Hello, Nat. Welcome to the live stream. Thank you for your comment. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for participating. She or he, I'm not sure if it's a she or he. It says Nat, so Nat could be a man or a female. I'm not sure. So, but they want to debate me, and they want me. They just told me you pick the topic. They want me to pick the topic. Well, we're already on the topic of Japan. And so this was in the news recently about Iran. Trump was saying about that they didn't want Iran to have nuclear weapons. So question for you, do you think the United States has the right to dictate around the world which countries can have nuclear weapons and which countries cannot have nuclear weapons? Do you think it's right for Trump to say, oh, well, he thinks that Germany, for example, can have nuclear weapons, but for example, I'm just saying for example, but he thinks, for example, that Japan can, or he thinks that, for example, France can have nuclear weapons, but he doesn't think that Iran should. Like, do you think? So here's a debate topic. Do you think? And this, I'm not even sure what I believe honestly on this topic. I'm not even sure. I'm kind of on the fence with this one. Do you think that Iran or Japan or Germany, all of these countries that were previous major enemies of the United States, Iran is, or okay, Japan and Germany used to be major enemies of the United States. Now they're allies of the United States. Iran is still an enemy of the United States. So my question is do you think America, the United States of America, has the right to tell and dictate which countries are allowed to have nuclear weapons and which countries are not? That is the question. And a follow-up to that question, very logical follow-up to that question, is do you think Iran should be allowed to have nuclear weapons? What about North Korea? What about Germany? What about Japan? Is Japan allowed to have nuclear weapons? Especially since Japan has proven themselves to be trusted allies to the United States for decades. Don't you think that the Japanese have proven themselves that they should now be allowed to have nuclear weapons for defense as well? Right? So that's the question. Because this was just 3 weeks ago. This was all over the news 3 weeks ago. So if you're asking me to pick a topic, I just picked something that was just in the news 3 weeks ago. Donald Trump, the president of the United States, was encouraging Israel to do what they have to do because Iran should not be allowed, in Trump's opinion. This is not my opinion. Trump made it very clear what his opinion was. He said that he does not want Iran to be able to get nuclear weapons. So the United States government, the president of the United States of America, is trying to dictate and tell which countries are allowed to have nuclear defense weapons and which countries are not. And my question is does the United States have the right to determine which countries are allowed to have defense weapons, nuclear defense weapons? Obviously, I don't want nuclear war, but Russia does not have nuclear weapons because they just like nuclear war. Russia has nuclear weapons for defense. Russia has nuclear weapons for defense, and the same way that America claims that they have nuclear weapons for defense, but technically, the only country to ever actually use nuclear weapons was the United States on Japan, when America dropped 2 nukes on Japan. So technically speaking, if we're talking about countries that are using the nuclear weapons for defense and countries that are using the nuclear weapons for other reasons, so the United States, my question is this. Sure, the United States says that they used the nukes for defense in World War II, which the United States made a very convincing argument, 100%. Hands down, the Americans, the United States made a very convincing argument. They portrayed the Japanese as evil. They made the Japanese look bad. They said, oh, the Japanese in World War II, oh, you know what I mean? So the United States made their case as to why they absolutely had to use nuclear weapons on Japan. But now the United States is trying to tell Iran and Germany and Japan. Well, I'm just saying, and generally speaking, the United States is trying to determine which countries are allowed to have nuclear weapons and which countries are not allowed to have nuclear weapons. So my question is, do you think Iran should be allowed to have nuclear weapons? Do you think Germany? I mean, I know that the Germans in World War II were major enemies of the United States, but the Germans have clearly proven themselves to be allies. And maybe it would even be in America's best interest for Germany to have nuclear defense weapons. So do you think Germany should be allowed to have nuclear defense weapons? Do you think Japan, especially since the Japanese have proven themselves to be trusted allies of the United States, do you think that Japan should be allowed to have nuclear defense weapons, which actually might be in America's best interest? It might be in America's best interest for Japan to have nuclear defense weapons. So that's my question. Should the United States be allowed to determine which countries are allowed to have nuclear weapons? And if so, which countries do you think should be allowed to have them? Iran, do you think should be allowed to have them? Do you think Germany should be allowed to have them? Japan, etc.? So someone just said that they tried to point out the fact that Iran has been making threats towards America. That's what they said. They said, well, Iran has been making threats towards America. I would argue that the countries that aren't making threats are probably more dangerous. Because usually, I'm just saying usually, generally speaking, the people, it's wisdom. It's literally a quote. It's literally a famous quote. It's wisdom. Something about the person who speaks the loudest has this whatever. Basically, what it means, the quote. So English is my second language. Russian is my first language. It's hard. Okay, so basically, what it means is that, like, the person who is like basically making threats is not as dangerous as the quiet people. That's it. They always say that the quiet people are the ones that are the most dangerous. They always say, there's a famous quote in English that the quiet people are the ones you have to watch out for. So obviously the Iranians are not the quiet people. if they're being vocal about their hatred towards the United States, obviously then if they're chanting, all of this stuff against, like this commenter just said, someone just came in and commented and saying that Iran was making threats towards America. Well, if you look at the wisdom of things, typically it's a famous saying that the quiet people are always the ones you have to watch out for. So maybe someone could make an argument and say, like, just to play devil's advocate, they could say, well, I mean, if the quiet people are the ones you have to watch out for, Iran, they're definitely not the quiet ones. They're openly saying all of these empty threats against America. But then again, you have countries like, for example, I don't know, for example, I'm just saying for an example, Germany, who's very quiet, who doesn't go openly make threats against America. So if you're going to go by the logic of the quiet people are the ones you have to watch out for, well, the Germans are definitely the quiet people. They definitely haven't said nothing. The Germans, literally, I have not heard a German say anything negative about the United States. Not recently. Obviously in World War II. Obviously in World War II. But I'm talking about recently. Like I'm talking about within the last 60 years. I have not heard a German say anything openly negative about the United States. So when you listen to the wisdom, this is your own English wisdom. And we have a similar expression in Russian about, the quiet ones are the ones you have to watch out for. So if you listen to your own wisdom, you could probably like intuitively think that maybe the Iranians are not as big of a threat as these other countries that are more quiet and you really don't know what their intentions are. It's not logical fallacies. This is a discussion. This is a discussion, and people have different points of view. And I have been entertaining the point of view. I've been bringing up the point of view that people have said that typically the quiet ones are the ones you have to watch out for. So if we're going to go by that wisdom and think about that wisdom, then when you think about it this way, the Iranians, they really haven't been the quiet ones, really. So if like the Iranians have been vocal, so vocal. It's like a guy just came in and said it. Iran has been making empty threats towards America for years. So if we're gonna go by, oh, the quiet ones are the ones you have to watch out for, why aren't then people watching these other really quiet countries that Germany hasn't said anything in a while? Like I haven't seen any negative stuff come from Germany against the United States. It's almost like it's almost kind of sketchy because when someone's overly nice to you. See, this is why I don't typically, even Canadians, I don't trust overly nice Canadians, because just because someone is nice to you doesn't mean you can trust them. And a lot of times people get fooled into scams. The major time people get fooled by scams is because they think that just because someone's being nice to you that you can trust this person. That is not true. Just because someone's being nice to you doesn't mean you can trust them. Especially, I don't like it when there's other Canadians, because I'm from Canada. I'm a Russian Canadian, and I don't like it when there's certain Canadians that are overly nice. So, in my Russian culture, because I'm an ethnic Russian, I'm from Russia, and from Russia, in our culture, we don't smile in public. I know this sounds funny, but this is just their culture. And you'll see other YouTube Russian teachers say this. Like there'll be 5 Russian teachers on YouTube that all admit that it's not normal in Russia to just smile at strangers. Smiling in public is not a cultural thing in Russia. And it's very awkward if you go to Russia and you're a tourist and a foreigner. The Russians can tell who the foreigners are because the foreigners are constantly smiling for like no reason. Because in American culture and Canadian culture, it's very normal to see a stranger on the street and smile. That is not what goes on in Russia. In Russia, strangers in Russia do not smile at each other unless there's a very specific something going on, right? So even Russian teachers will admit this. If you study Russian, if you study the Russian language, even Russian teachers will admit this. So in Canadian culture, when people are overly nice and they smile and they're overly friendly, just because someone's overly friendly and overly nice and they smile doesn't mean you can trust these people. And so you need to just be aware. I'm just telling people to be very careful because a lot of times The people that are openly nice, the people that are overly nice, and you think you can trust these people, they're just using you, they're deceiving you, right? What is deception? Think about the definition of deception. Deception is deceiving someone, making someone think that they can trust you when they can't trust you. So if anyone's going to pull off deception, the Iranians are not. I mean, technically the Iranians are just openly do not like the United States, but are they capable of deceiving the United States? No, because in order to deceive someone, you'd have to get them to trust you. Well, nobody trusts the Iranians. I'm saying not nobody. Sorry, not nobody trusts the Iranians. The Americans. Nobody in the Americans, obviously Trump and the Trump administration and the American government, obviously they don't trust the Iranians to have nuclear weapons. They made it a 3 week. It was not nonstop for 3 weeks. We heard all about how Trump will not allow Iran to have nuclear weapons. We heard that for 3 weeks. So clearly the Americans do not trust the Iranians. So a good point is, can Iran suddenly now deceive? If the art of deception if the art of deception is to make the enemy think they can trust you and then deceive them, well, how can the Iranians deceive the Americans when they're not trying to gain the Americans' trust? Not like other countries, for example. I'm not saying that they're going to deceive the Americans. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, for example, like Germany, who has a different strategy, clearly the Germans have gained the trust of the Americans. So if anyone is in a position to deceive the United States, it would be all of these other countries that have gained the trust of the United States. Japan has gained, well, at least not with Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard doesn't trust the Japanese. It's very clear. That's what it seems like, according to what she said in the director of National Intelligence Media Committee. She literally said she has concerns about the Japanese building up their infrastructure. That's basically more or less what she said. You could watch it yourself. Okay, I can't remember exactly verbatim the exact wording she used, but that's pretty much what she said. Okay, she said something about that she has concerns. There's some kind of trust issues with the Japan. She's worried about the Japanese building up their infrastructure. That's what she said. Okay, more or less. If you want to see verbatim exactly what she said, you could, but I basically just summed up more or less the gist of what she said. But you can look it up, the Director of National Intelligence Committee hearing Tulsi Gabbard about Japan, what she said about the Japanese. So if anyone is in a position to deceive, if there's anyone who can deceive the United States, it would be countries that have gained the trust of the United States, like Japan, like Germany, like Canada. Well, I don't know if Canada we've really gained your Americans' trust, but anyways, like Canada, like Germany, like France, like all these other countries, right? So in the art of war, in the art of deception, no one's going to turn around and say, "Oh, the Iranians totally deceived the Americans. The Iranians deceived the United States." Who can say that when the Iranians are openly vocal about their hatred against their dislike of the United States? How are they going in order for to deceive someone, you have to gain their trust. The Iranians have not gained the trust of the United States. So if anyone's going to betray the United States, how can the Iranians didn't gain the trust of the United States? They openly hate the United. They openly don't like the United States. So if anyone is in a position to betray the United States and deceive the United States in the art of deception, it would be countries like Germany, Japan, Canada, France, all these countries, for example, that have gained the trust of the So Nat, I did like I said, I can't. It's not easy to talk and read the comments at the same time. I cannot talk and read comments at the exact same time. I cannot do that simultaneously. I have to talk and then every so often look and read the comments. So Nat has one of the people in the comments has said that they provided some answer to one of the debate questions. They asked me to choose the topic for the debate. I said about Iran, whether Trump was saying about Iran, he didn't want Iran to have nuclear weapons. Trump made it very clear, the president of the United States, Donald Trump, the United States president, made it very clear he did not want Iran to have nuclear weapons. So my question was is should Iran be allowed to have nuclear weapons? So Japan, should Germany, etc., be allowed to have nuclear weapons? Should the United States be allowed to determine who has nuclear weapons? So Nat has said, one of the commenters said that they provided a solution to this problem. What was the solution? Because I just can you please write it again? Because I just went through the comments. There's a lot of comments. I had to scroll through a lot. So I might have missed it accidentally. So can you just write again what the solution was to this problem? Do you think Iran should be allowed to have nuclear weapons? Do you think Japan, Germany, etc., other countries should be allowed to have nuclear weapons? Do you think do you think the United States of America should be allowed to determine which country can have nuclear weapons and which countries cannot? Okay, so Nat has said, this is what Nat said. Okay, I'm just repeating what Nat said. So don't someone, like I hate when if someone were to take a copy of this video and then just make it look like I said what Nat said. No, I'm making it very clear. This is what Nat said, okay? So Nat said that they think, he, she, I'm not sure if Nat stands for Natalie or Nathan. I'm not sure if it's a man or a woman, but Nat, they said that they think it should be brought to the UN or the G7, but they think Iran violated several treaties, not just with the United States. When diplomacy dried up, a strike was justified, in their opinion. So, um, that's your opinion. I'm not gonna disagree with it. Honestly, I'm not an expert on Iran, so I'm not gonna disagree with you. I'm not gonna agree with you. That's your opinion. I mean, if you think that a strike on Iran was justified, that's what your opinion is. Uh, I really actually, my opinion is I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that I have an answer when I don't. I'm not the type of person, if I don't know something, I don't make up an answer. If I don't know something, I just say I don't know. So was the United States justified in that? You know what? I can't really say an answer to that. I'll just say I don't know. So I think in defense, yes, if someone is truly in a position where they feel like they need to defend themselves, then yes, they are justified. But I did not spend years studying Iranian politics. I've never been to Iran. I don't speak Arabic. So I'm not going to sit here and try to give an opinion on something I'm not an expert on. I don't like doing that. I don't like giving opinions, especially as big of opinion as saying whether or not I think the United States had the right to attack Iran. I'm not going to go and sit here and try to, like, I just don't know. I really don't know. I'm not going to go there. I have an opinion. I think I have an intuition, but I'm not an expert, and I don't feel comfortable addressing a question unless I'm an expert on the topic. Okay, like I'm an expert on mathematics. I'm an expert in science. I am not an expert on international politics, but I have the right to have an opinion, and other people have the right to have an opinion. So everyone is encouraged to bring their opinion, but I'm not the type of person that if I don't know something, I don't just make up an answer. And I have no problem saying I don't know. I don't know if the United States was justified in that action. I can't say for sure. If the United States felt like they needed to defend themselves, then they needed to do what they needed to do. But I'm also trying to be diplomatic in case anyone didn't realize it. In case we do have Iranians in the chat, I'm trying to be a little bit diplomatic here, especially since that my ethnic background is Russia and Russia is allies with Iran. So I'm trying to be diplomatic, right? I'm not. I'm trying to stay neutral a little bit, neutral, right? Neutrality. I'm trying to stay neutral. And also, I just simply don't know because I'm not an expert on Iranian politics. So I'm not going to make up an answer. In fact, another issue, since let's go back to the topic of teachers and inappropriateness in teachers. Teachers who would rather make up an answer that they don't know or then rather than admit that they don't know something, that is wrong. That is extremely wrong. I had one teacher, thank God, this teacher was great. And she said, you know what she said? She said, if you ever don't know something, don't make up an answer. Just say you don't know. It would be more foolish to say something incorrectly rather than to just say you don't know. If you're like, hey, hello, sir, do you know how to run a nuclear power plant? No, I don't know. It doesn't mean that you're stupid. It just means that you don't know something. It's okay not to know something. We don't have to know everything. So don't make up an answer. And so my teacher was 100% correct. She said she has no problem admitting when she doesn't know something. But she said other teachers, and she even called out other teachers, sometimes she has caught them trying to make up an answer when they really don't know. And that is wrong. And that is a disservice to education for teachers to just think that it's better to just make up an answer so that the students don't think that they're, like just like I if I was a student and my teacher just admitted that they didn't know an answer to a question or they didn't know something, I wouldn't think less of the teacher. I would think more of the teacher for actually just saying they don't know because I would see them more credible now. I would see a person who like says they know about this, they know about that. Like, but for a person who just makes up stuff, that would actually I would totally lose credibility. So I wouldn't think that the teacher was stupid for saying they don't know. If they don't know something, they don't know. I wouldn't think that they're stupid for saying they don't know. It would actually tarnish their credibility if they said they made up something when they really don't know. That's what would be bad. And so that's what a lot of these teachers are doing. A lot of these teachers, they are who knows what they're teaching. They're probably making stuff up all the time. Making stuff up all the time. Novosibirsk. Novosibirsk. I was born in Novosibirsk, and then when I was very young, we moved to Canada. So when I was very, very young, we moved from Novosibirsk, from Russia, Novosibirsk, Russia, to Canada when I was very young. So I am from Novosibirsk, to answer your question, which you wrote in Russian, probably to try to figure out if I really am Russian or not. because Nat asked me a question in Russian, in the Russian language, and he asked me, she or he asked me, Nat. I'm not sure if Nat's short for Natalie or Nathan, whatever. I'm not sorry. I don't know what, I don't know what gender you are. It's not important. It doesn't matter. Like, it's. I'm just. I want to be respectful. So if you want me to call you Mister or Mrs., if you care for me to know what gender you are, then you're more than welcome to tell me. It obviously what really matters is your opinion. And so sorry when I say Nat, I don't know if it's a man or a woman. But basically, what Nat said was that they asked me a question in Russian. They asked me where I was born in Russia. Hopefully it wasn't a fishing question. Although I would say that, hey, have you ever gone fishing? Interesting thing about fishing, right? So there actually are a lot of fishermen. I didn't know this because I never really was big on fishing, but there are actually people who go fishing who catch the fish and then throw the fish back. They catch a fish and then they throw the fish back. In certain cultures, and listen, I'm a vegetarian, but in certain cultures that rely on fishing for their food, right? Imagine in certain cultures, if a guy from a culture that comes from a culture where they fish for food, like their fish is their food, imagine he goes to the United States and he goes fishing with someone and the girl catches the fish and then throws it back. The guy's gonna be like, what did you just do? You just threw away dinner. It just would be that would be an interest that would be really culturally that would be a culture clash kind of thing. Like imagine like a guy from one of these countries where they rely on fishing for food. He goes to America and he goes fishing with a woman and she catches the fish and throws the fish back because that's what they do is they just catch the fish and throw it back. And the guy's like, "What did you just do? Like you just threw away dinner." Like it's I'm not I don't even care. Like I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat fish anyways, but I'm just saying that in terms of a cultural difference, well, that's a big cultural difference. I never even knew that people did that. I didn't know that people just sometimes would catch the fish and then throw them back. I mean, great for the fish. The fish survived. That's actually great news for the fish. The fish has survived the encounter with the human. And then the fish can go and tell all their fish friends that they saw what it was like to be above the water. And the other fish friends might not believe them. Their fish friends, what he saw when he was baited with the hook and then brought him to the boat and saw this big, beautiful woman, right, staring at him. And then the fish gets thrown back in the water and survives. And he goes and tell all his other fish friends. And the other fish friends don't believe him. They're like, you're crazy. You're crazy. No, that never happened. You what? You saw this big, tall woman? What? She had legs and two arms? What? She had this big, long, blonde hair? What? What? What is blonde hair? What are you talking about? So when this fish gets caught by this woman, this female fisherman, I'm just saying, for example, I don't know if it was like just an example. Let's say she was female. And she catches this fish, and then he's in the boat with her, and then she just throws him back in the water. And then this fish goes and tells all his fish friends what he just saw, what he experienced. Oh my God, like this was like, he just saw, it was almost as if he saw heaven. He's going, and then he survived. He survived and came back into the water. The other fish friends are going to be like, oh, you're crazy. What? You saw this tall, blonde, whatever. You did not see Pam Bondi. No. I'm sure the fish are not up to date on American politics. So, but imagine if one of the fish said to the other fish, you did not see Pam Bondi take you and throw you back in the water. They just disappeared. Apparently the Epstein files just disappeared, and so did the fish. The fish apparently Pam Bondi, she caught some fish and this is a hypothetical. No, she didn't catch fish. I don't know, maybe she did. I don't know. I don't know if Pam Bondi's a fisherman. I don't know. I don't know that about her. Maybe she is. Maybe she's I just used her as an example. Because right now in the news, right, they're talking about the fact that Pam Bondi was she was defending Trump, and then their new answer to this whole Epstein stuff is it just disappeared. They had all of this evidence. They had this client list. They had all of these names connecting the Epstein people, whatever, and then suddenly it just disappeared, and it doesn't list. They've only been talking about it for 4 years. Why would you think there was a list? Like, and then even Megyn Kelly. If did you see Megyn Kelly? She was in shock. And Megyn Kelly is one of the biggest Trump supporters. Megyn Kelly in shock, and Tucker Carlson. Even Tucker Carlson was in shock. All of these people, I'm in shock. Everyone's in shock. You're asking about why are people asking about the list? You mean the list that you were talking about for 4 years? You were talking about a list for years, like I don't know exactly 4 or 3 years, whatever. But you were talking about a list for years, and now you're wondering why people are asking about this list because you people were the ones talking about it, especially you're like even Megyn Kelly. She says that one of the major campaign promises was the fact that Trump was going to sort out all of this. He literally can't was it was one of his campaign promises. That's what Megyn Kelly said on her show. Megyn Kelly said that one of Donald Trump's campaign promises was he was going to address the issue of Epstein. So that's why people are asking about it. Well, actually, someone said something about Keanu Reeves. So Keanu Reeves, I'm gonna flat out say I don't know what's going on with that dude, but I can't really say because I'm gonna say one thing. I'll say that dude he was in the Matrix. So Keanu Reeves was in the Matrix, like the actor. The actor was in the Matrix movie, and the Matrix just totally confused me. So especially now when it comes to Keanu Reeves, like I'm so confused about the Matrix. Whenever I see Keanu Reeves, obviously I know he's an actor. He's just an actor who is in the Matrix. But just the fact that the whole Matrix movie confused me about being in the Matrix, right? Now, when it comes to Keanu Reeves, it's almost as if I think that he wrote the script, but he didn't, obviously, right? Keanu Reeves didn't write the Matrix movie script, right? So if I'm gonna ask questions about the Matrix, the possibility of we being in a Matrix, I mean, it would like, would people go and ask Keanu Reeves? Well, no, he's just an actor who portrayed he was in the Matrix, but he wasn't really like the Matrix. He didn't write the Matrix. It wasn't, he's just an actor. So if anyone has questions about the Matrix, go ask the people who actually wrote the script for the Matrix. But anyways, but I don't know if Keanu Reeves is because someone said, oh, maybe Keanu Reeves is on the list. I don't know. I mean, anyone could be on the list, really. I would say, like, one person who's extremely suspect is the person who, when the list was announced, she picked up and left the United States. So Ellen DeGeneres, this is around the same time. So it was around the same time of when the list was announced, when they were announcing about the Epstein list. Suddenly, around the same time, Ellen DeGeneres picked up, sold all her property in America and left America and went to Britain. So three big questions. Why, around the time of the United States announcing the Epstein list, would Ellen DeGeneres suddenly want to pick up, sell all her stuff in the United States and move to Britain? And the second question is, why Britain? That actually kind of is sketchy about Britain. Like, if she's trying to escape the United States, like, just saying hypothetically, like, hypothetically speaking, it's just a theory, hypothetical. If she was trying to escape the United States because of this Epstein list, why would she go to Britain? Is there something going on in Britain? Are the British people like her kind of people, if you know what I mean? Are the British people going to protect her from the Epstein list and from America? Like, why Britain? So I have to just plug in my phone. So just hold on one sec. It's gonna just hold on one sec, people. All right, so we were having some technical difficulties because I needed to plug in my phone. So, but we're back. I know that looked weird, but I had to plug in my phone, so I had to move everything. And the phone cord is now turning. Hold on a sec. Gotta move again. Otherwise, I would have had to end the stream. And I didn't want to end the stream because, we got some people in here. So I decided I'm going to go for a bit more. But if I didn't plug in my phone, I would have had to end the stream because my phone was on like 3%. So sorry for the technical difficulties, but we're back. Is it sideways? Hold on. How do I... Is it straight now? Well, I know... I don't mean it's Justin Trudeau straight. I mean, it's the... Oh my God. Is the... Is the picture like, can you... Is it vertical? Uh... How do I... What about now? Is it back now? Is it still sideways? I think I know how to do this. Hold on, let me think. And now it might be sideways, but the other way. I tried to just rotate the phone. I think if it said something about rotating the phone to bring it back to the right. But then when I rotated it, I think it just did sideways now the opposite way, right? Is it sideways just the other way now? Or is it vertical? Okay, let me see if there's a way to change the orientation of the verticalness of the stream. If it can, I just like see in the options it says flip or mute, hide live video, retouch, green screen, create highlight, These are the options it lists. It's not giving an option to um, make it verticalness, make it back to be vertical. It's saying to rotate the phone. It's saying rotate device. So if I rotate it, if I try to rotate it counterclockwise or clockwise and just do a full 360-degree turn, it might actually fix it. Hold on. Nope, that didn't fix it. I tried rotating it 360 degrees, but I think it's still vertical. Oh, well, I'm gonna wrap up the stream soon then anyways, but at least I got to go for a few more minutes. But I'm gonna wrap up the stream soon. Oh, is it back now? Is it still vertical or I mean is it still sideways or is it vertical now? Well, it's good because I'm learning about how these live stream function features. Which, by the way, I have a question for the audience because so I'm new to live streaming. I've only been live streaming for a few months. I don't live stream every day. I have a job too. I work part time, so I can't live stream every day. Anyways, so I don't know. I'm not an expert on live streaming, but I noticed in some other people's live streams, they're able to make the comments like come on the screen. Oh, that okay. That might only be a feature for people who have monetized YouTube channels, right? It's probably just for people with the monetized YouTube channels. They have the feature where when someone makes a certain comment, they can enlarge the comment on the entire screen, right? And make that person's comment come really large. So I was trying to see if I could do that the other day because someone made a really interesting comment. I was actually shocked. It was as if this person was from the Central Intelligence Agency spilling the beans on something major, like a major American military secret. I was shocked. So this person wrote a comment in one of my live streams, and I wanted to take the comment and enlarge it, like I see them do on other YouTube channels. But I'm guessing it's probably that those YouTube channels, because they're monetized, they have the feature to do that. But because my channel's not monetized, I don't have the feature where I can take an interesting comment from a live stream and then enlarge it and put it on the screen. So I'm still trying to figure out how to do that. Maybe it is possible for people who are not monetized, but my guess, since I've tried, I've looked through the whole live stream, I cannot find an option to take a specific comment and enlarge it. I don't know. I don't know if it's even possible for non-monetized YouTube channels. Well, my channel is open-minded to conspiracy theories. I think it would be more telling for someone to just dismiss all conspiracy theories because many conspiracy theories have been wrong But there have also been many conspiracy theories that have been right, turned out to be right. So for to take someone and for that person to just dismiss every single conspiracy theory, that's very telling of that person. Because an honest person, a logical person, a person of the world would say, well, not all conspiracy theories are right, but sometimes, maybe even half the time, maybe even 50% of the time, conspiracy theories turn out to be right. So for to find someone, when you find those people who are those same people, you know who I'm talking about, who just they always say they dismiss, oh, it's everything that is a conspiracy theory is wrong. That's what they say. That person, it's like they're telling on themselves. Wait a minute, you're saying every conspiracy theory is wrong? Because what about this conspiracy theory that turned out to be true? There's a lot of conspiracy theories that turn out to be true. So when you come across these people that try to say, oh, all conspiracy theories, oh, it's a conspiracy theory, they're trying to make it look like it's automatically wrong because it's a conspiracy theory. A lot of conspiracy theories turn out to be true, not all of them. So that's very telling. Next time you come across a person who tries to dismiss something and try to label everything that's a conspiracy theory as nonsense or not right, that's very telling on that person. I wouldn't be surprised if that person was like a high level security officer. Like, for example, at the FSB or something, like the Federalная Служба Безопасности. I wouldn't be surprised if like that person wouldn't work for the FSB or didn't work for the Kremlin or didn't work even for the CIA or CSIS, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. Like, I wouldn't be surprised, you know? I was reading one time this spy novel, and there was about these spies who were so flip floppy. There was like this one guy. He was a Russian spy. And it was in The Good Spy. It's called The Good Spy. It was a novel called The Good Spy. And this Russian guy was like so flip floppy for money. Like one day he's working for Russia, the next day he's working for China, the next day he's working for the United States. Like he's basically a spy for hire. Like he'll just work for anyone who pays who bids the most money. Spies have no loyalty no more. I don't know what's worse, a spy that it has so much loyalty to their country, or a spy that has no loyalty and that'll just work for whoever pays them the most. Imagine like one time the spy is working for Japan, the next day he's working for Russia, the next day he's working for this is capitalism. This is what capitalism does to people. It takes a really good Russian spy and says, maybe he'll work for the Americans. They pay more money. But aren't you loyal to Mother Russia? Aren't you like a devout, like Russian to the core that you're loyal to Mother Russia? No, I will work for who pays the most money. I work for the people whoever pays the most money. I work for. Imagine like me, like I listen. I could never handle being tortured. I just have no tolerance for torture. This is why probably CSIS never hired me. The Canadian Security Intelligence Service never hired me because I would not do well under torture. I just don't. There's just some people that will cave right away under torture. Like if I'm not given like anyways, so I could never handle being tortured. I'm one of those people that would cave right away. I'd be like in the room and then suddenly like I'll be like, oh, okay, fine, I'll tell you everything. Okay, fine, I'll tell you everything. They're like, we just turned the lights on. I'll be like, okay, fine. I'll tell you everything you want to know. Everything you want to know about CSIS, about the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, everything you want to know. And they're like, dude, chill. We just turned the lights on. We haven't even started yet. I just cannot handle being tortured. I have no tolerance for torture. They start playing Justin Bieber music or like, no, okay, fine, I'll tell you everything you want to know. Just turn off that awful music. This is why CSIS would never hire me because I have no tolerance for torture and also because I make jokes about CSIS and the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. I made some jokes about Russian spies too, so to evil the level the playing field, as they say in English. And which, by the way, the government, the politicians, they're constantly betraying the American people. I mean, if anyone should be charged with treason, it should be these politicians. Imagine on a politician trying to say, "Oh, how dare you, cave during being tortured." Dude, they were being tortured. That's the whole purpose of it, is to get the people to cave and give up information. That's literally in every spy movie. Every spy movie, every James Bond movie, every intelligence officer, whatever movie, CIA movie, they always do that so that they get the person to cave and to give up secret intel, give up secrets. And these politicians, imagine the audacity. The politicians will sell out the American people for nothing. Literally, they'll do it just for fun. The politicians will sell out the American people for fun and be traitors, turncoat traitors. The politicians will be traitors for fun. And then they have the audacity to take a military guy who survived being tortured and then say, "Oh, how could you turn and how could you give up intel? How could you give up secrets? He was being tortured. That's why they were torturing him." And you're a politician. You're a politician. You weren't being tortured. You were driving around in a nice car, trips to Hawaii, drinking wine, drinking $1,000 bottles of champagne, and you betrayed the American people and you weren't even being tortured. And you betrayed the American people and you weren't even being tortured. And then you have the audacity, a politician, to take a military hero who was, unfortunately was being tortured and then may have given up some information while being tortured. And the politician has the audacity to criticize an American military veteran. Meanwhile, the politicians, they're constantly selling out America every day. They're constantly betraying America. And they're riding around in big fancy cars and limousines, and they're going on trips to Hawaii, and they're drinking $1,000 bottles of champagne. Another one is the politicians who accuse people of stealing when the politicians are embezzling the taxpayer money. Imagine the politician who gets on stage and says, "I'm sick of all these people stealing chocolate bars." First off, especially the politician that looks like he ate all the chocolate bars. I won't say which one, but you know which one I'm talking about. And the second, the politician's like, "Oh, all these criminals, thieves." Meanwhile, he's like embezzling the taxpayer money. Like he's complaining about someone who stole, which of course is wrong. Listen, don't put words in my mouth, okay? Obviously, it's wrong. Stealing is wrong. I'm not a thief. I do not steal. But my point is that is especially wrong. It's of course the wrong to steal a chocolate bar. It's wrong to steal food. It's wrong to steal in general. It's wrong to steal. But it's especially wrong for a politician to be such a hypocrite, liar, sociopath that he gets up on stage and complains about people stealing food because they're hungry. And this politician who clearly looks like he ate all the food, and then on top of it, he's the one, he's embezzling the taxpayer money. He's stealing millions. He's complaining about people stealing chocolate bars because they're hungry. But this guy, he literally is like, he has the audacity to not only be a hypocrite, liar, sociopath, embezzle the taxpayer money, but then, and then he accuses people and he complains about all these thieves stealing food because they're hungry. And then this guy turns around and he's the biggest thief of them all. And he's embezzling the taxpayer money. What a sociopath. What a lying hypocrite sociopath. And he gets up on stage and he says, oh, I'm sick of these thieves and I'm sick of these criminals. Meanwhile, he doesn't mention the fact that he's been embezzling the Canadian taxpayer money for years. And he's probably been eating all the chocolate bars too. Which, I mean, I like O. Henry. O. Henry's a good chocolate bar. I don't eat chocolate bars all the time. I just have them like once a month usually. Okay, once I have them on the weekends. I have like one every weekend. But anyways, I like O. Henry and I like Reese's Pieces. There was one comedian, there was one comedian who said he got up on stage, and this was a kind of edgy comedian. And you know what he said? He said, the immigrants are the biggest thieves of them all. I'm like, what? And I was starting to be like, where are you going with this? You just said that the immigrants are the biggest thieves? What are you talking about, dude? And then he goes and says, the immigrants are the biggest thieves of them all. They're stealing everyone's jobs. And I was like, oh, I should have saw that one coming. I should have saw that one coming. Because at first I'm like, whoa, dude, what did you just say? You just accused the immigrants of being the biggest thieves and stealers of them all. What do you mean with this dude? Like this comedian, where's he going with this? And then he says, the immigrants are the biggest thieves of them all because they steal everyone's jobs. And I was like, oh, okay, well, okay, that makes sense. They kind of do that. I'm pretty sure there are people who want to steal the American dream from Americans. All these people are like, they're coming for the American dream. They want to steal your American dream for them, for themselves. They're people that are coming to America for the American dream. They want to steal your job. They want your American dream. They want your American house. They want your American car. They want your American job. Isn't it great that they're coming for the American dream? It's not a poem, it's a monologue. Man, Russian is my first language. English is my second language. And like even I know that what I just said it's called a monologue when someone anyways, monologue. It was actually funny. There was a Saturday Night Live sketch where it was like they were making fun of The Bachelor, and I guess one of the contestants, like it was a comedian, and she was pretending to be like a contestant on The Bachelor, and she was an immigrant, right? And it's a famous Saturday Night Live sketch. It's on Saturday Night Live on YouTube, Saturday Night Live, and it's the one of the Bachelor. It was one of the There were many actually parodies of The Bachelor. So they did like several sketches where they made fun of The Bachelor. So there's many of them. So, but one of them in one of the sketches where they made fun of The Bachelor, one of the female contestants, she was a comedian, and she was pretending to be a contestant who was an immigrant. And she was like, yep. She's like, I believe in immigration control. I came through the door and I'm going to slam it right behind me. Because it's true, because a lot of immigrants are actually for these strict immigration policies. And it's like, what? You just came yourself as an immigrant and now you're shutting the door on other immigrants? Like, it seems kind of hypocritical. But I'm very for the people, and it's you should do it legally, of course, you should do it legally, and I think that that's what these people mean. What these people mean is that it's not that they're shutting the door on immigration for other immigrants, and they were an immigrant themselves. It means that they just want people to do it legally, and there's I fully agree with Donald Trump on that one. I fully agree with Donald Trump that people who do immigration need to do it legally and come to America legally. So if a person is saying that they're an immigrant and they would believe in very strict immigration policies, I think maybe what they just mean is they just want people to do it legally. That's what they mean. So I'm going to take this opportunity. In fact, wasn't expecting to do a 3 hour live stream, but I'm going to try to hit the 3 hour mark at least because the live stream actually was it was like really popular today. It got a lot of people. So I'm going to take this opportunity now to kind of say what my channel is about a bit, because someone in the comments was trying to suggest that it's a conspiracy theory channel. It's not a channel specifically only for conspiracy theories. There can be conspiracy theories on the channel, but it's not a very specific conspiracy theory channel, which actually would probably be a really good idea. It would be really smart for a YouTuber to make a whole conspiracy theory channel. But my channel can have conspiracy theories, but it's not just specifically conspiracy theories only. But what my channel really more is about is my channel is about I'm a scientist and a mathematician at heart. At heart, I'm a scientist and mathematician. I do have a background in marketing. I have a formal education in marketing. I also am an ethnic Russian. I speak fluent Russian and I speak English as a second language. But I took many English classes for the years. That's why I speak perfect English now. But for many years, I was bullied because I had an accent and everything. So basically, what my channel is about is science and mathematics. And this is where I came from with this. It's like, so there's a lot of these science and mathematics channels. They have tons of information. They are great. They are very educational. But they are not gaining popularity because they are seen as boring or the people are not interested or etc. For some reason, all of these great science and mathematics channels are not as popular as these other channels that are. And why? Why is these other channels like these political channels that really a lot of times these political channels, they're not educational, they're very toxic. Why are these political channels so much more popular than these wonderful science and mathematics channels? Why? Because the political channels have this scandalous, taboo kind of
edginess. The political channels have an edginess. They shock people. They bring people in because they're edgy and they're scandalous. They're scandalous, political scandalous channels. And that's why a lot of these political channels, like for example, Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, they're so much more popular and bigger. I'm not saying they're better. I'm just saying they just get more views. I'm not saying they're better. I think the science channels are better. I think the mathematics and science channels are better and more educational. But these political channels, because they're scandalous and they get all this stuff, they're getting all of these views and they're getting so much more like bigger. And so what I wanted to do was take a science channel, a mathematics channel, and bring in some politics and bring in some other areas, bring in sports, bring in other areas, and really make science and mathematics like make it edgy, like make it really like so that a science and like a science channel can like get as many views, if not more, than like one of these scandalous political channels. So I'm really bringing excitement to science, trying to find ways to make science entertaining, and not just entertaining in general, but even to other audiences. Like, for example, when you kind of take politics and mix it with science, now you're kind of marketing the science to the political people. So all of these political people, I'm gaining a political audience to my science channel, which is great because I like promoting science and mathematics to everyone. Listen, if you're a scientist, you already do science. My marketing channel is not to promote to scientists because you're already a scientist. Great. That's wonderful. You're already a scientist. My marketing channel is to promote to people who haven't discovered science yet, or maybe don't think science is wonderful and fun, or don't see how fun science can be, or maybe they had a bad science teacher and they were turned off by science and mathematics and they think science is hard or they think science is boring or whatever. And so my science channel, my mathematics and science channel is for adults who want to look at science in a different way, who want to look at the politics of science, look at other things of science, like more really edgy science, really funny science, like even jokes. That's why I like doing jokes in science. For example, I have a recent short where it's all about I ask a question and I ask a question, and it's about, do you think the Arctic is a hot topic? So this is like an oxymoron. This is contradictory because to take the Arctic, and to call it a hot topic is kind of like, right? Because the Arctic, which of course Russia is in the Arctic, and then there might be a war and blah blah blah. And the Arctic Council is about 8 countries, and they govern the Arctic. And the Arctic is like the route if Russia ever want to invade Canada, they go through the Arctic instead or whatever. So, anyways, the Arctic, right? Especially with the polar caps, the ice caps maybe melting, etc., and all of this climate change stuff and whatever. So what I'm saying is obviously that's all bad. That's all bad, right? That's not good, right? But what I'm saying is that the Arctic, just to call it a hot topic, like to take such a cold place, like a cold, very cold, like wintry place, and call it a hot topic is kind of funny, right? That's kind of so. That's what I'm saying. I try to use jokes, I try to use humor, politics, sports. I try to merge like hybrid. It's kind of like a hybrid channel. It's a hybrid channel that takes other topics and merges them with science. So now it's not just a science audience. I don't just have a science audience. Now I have a political audience because I am able to take science and connect it to politics. I'm able to take science and connect it to politics, right? Especially a lot of times, science and politics are very intermingled. There's something in physics called the interconnectedness of things. It's really true. The interconnectedness of things in physics. It's really true. And science and politics are very intermingled, actually. I mean, look at Elon Musk. Look at Elon Musk and all of these contracts for SpaceX and NASA and everything that's going on, right? NASA, SpaceX, and all of these contracts. Look how much science really is politically connected to politics. So it actually makes sense to do kind of a hybrid channel where it's like it's not just science, it's like science meets politics, meets sports, meets art. There's also an art. There's also an science to art, making art. Art is a science, right? Painting is kind of a science. There's kind of really is a science to painting. I'm not an artist. I can't really go there, but I'm just using it as an example. I'm using an example. So there's a science to everything. So basically, the point is I am trying to take science and mathematics, and I'm trying to make it really edgy and really cool, and like make people want to come, and make it like really popular, and just be just as popular as any other channel, even to all these other political channels. Because if you notice, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Benny Johnson, all of these big political channels, they are racking in the views. Like they're getting millions of views. How do I take a science channel, a mathematics channel, and make it like scandalous and edgy and make it really cool and make it really interesting? How do I bring it to the same level as Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Benny Johnson, etc.? So that this is the purpose of this channel. It's like a blend. It's a hybrid. It's a hybrid, a blend of science, of mathematics, of politics, of sports, of art, of everything. It's kind of it's taking science and it's showing people how really science is connected to everything, really. And it's true. Science and mathematics really is connected to everything. I mean, so. And there actually was a big kind of scandal with NASA. When you think about it, there really was because, right, in the 1960s, there were all of these people. I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm just saying there were people that accused NASA, the Americans, of never really actually landing on the moon. In fact, there's been several movies. So it's not me. Don't say me. Don't say, oh, you're saying that the Americans never landed on the moon in the 1960s, 70s, whatever. What are you talking about? I'm just telling you that there are people who have this opinion. I'm not saying it's right. I wasn't there. I wasn't there in the 1960s and 70s. I can't say for sure whether or not the Americans landed on the moon or not. I'm just telling you that it's a big group of people, a lot of movies. There's a big Hollywood movie with Scarlett Johansson. There was a big Hollywood movie with Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum called Fly Me to the Moon. And in that movie, they kind of look into the whole topic of whether the Americans really landed on the moon or not. So it was a big Hollywood movie just recently. And there were other movies I saw. And so there was a big actually scandal with NASA. It's kind of was a scandal because people actually believed that NASA faked the moon landing. That's a big scandal. So there you go. Like there's actually a lot of scandals in science. There's a lot of scandals in science and mathematics. In fact, COVID is basically a big science scandal when you think about it. COVID is a huge science scandal, right? So people don't always see the connection between science and politics and everything, but it's very connected. And so the other thing too, which by the way is to further on with the science stuff, is we can make a club, right? Planet Saturn Club. And basically, I'm very interested in Planet Saturn because Planet Saturn is, of course, very special. It's all the planets are special, but especially Planet Saturn with the rings, very uh, in terms of uh, it looks special. It looks special. Planet Saturn looks very special, and also I've always wondered this, right? Sunday for the sun, right? Sunday, we have Sunday the weekend, Sunday for the sun. In Russian, it's Vakrasenia, Sunday for the sun. And then Saturday for planet Saturn, right? Sunday for the sun. And then Saturday is it not for planet Saturn? Does that not make sense? Sunday for the sun, Saturday for planet Saturn. And apparently, there were a lot of societies in the past, civilizations apparently, that worshipped planet Saturn. There's something very special about planet Saturn. And planet Saturn, apparently, according to Scientific American magazine, I read in a Scientific American magazine that it's very possible that one of the orbiting moons, so planet Saturn has a lot of orbiting moons that orbit planet Saturn. Because of the gravitational pull of planet Saturn, it warms the moons. And apparently, one of the moons, many of them actually, or I think it was just maybe one or two or three, but a few of them, the moons of planet Saturn might actually be more habitable than Mars. And if we in the future had, let's say, a hypothetical situation, we need to get people off Earth, we had to move people suddenly to a new planet, whatever, one of the moons that orbits planet Saturn might be more habitable for people to live on than Mars. And imagine you're on one of the moons that orbits planet Saturn. Planet Saturn is like your new sun, like is the sun now. If like in the sense that you're now orbiting planet Saturn, because the moons would be orbiting planet Saturn, right? You would be living on a moon that orbits planet Saturn. So the sun would no longer be the center of the universe in your universe, because in your universe, when you're living on one of the moons that orbits planet Saturn is like, you're like worshiping kind of planet Saturn, right? You're on a moon, you're living on a moon that orbits planet Saturn. And it's like, you imagine maybe there were, maybe 1,000, 2,000 years ago, maybe there were a big civilization of people, Saturn people, that lived on one of the moons that orbits planet Saturn. And no wonder they worship planet Saturn. They orbited planet Saturn. If 1,000 years ago there was a whole civilization of people that lived on one of the moons that orbits planet Saturn, no wonder they have Saturday and they worship planet Saturn. They were orbiting planet Saturn. And there's also a theory, of course, that some people may have used to live on Mars. That 1,000 years ago or whatever, approximately around 1,000 years ago, people might have even also lived on Mars. And it's very possible that 1,000 years ago, there could have been a civilization of people that lived on one of the moons that orbit planet Saturn. And in the future, if we are looking for a habitable place, if for whatever reason, suddenly we got to move people off planet Earth and move them to a new planet, one of the moons that orbit planet Saturn might actually be could be, apparently, according to scientists from Scientific American magazine, they said it's very possible, maybe, they're not sure, but one of the moons that orbits planet Saturn might be actually more habitable than Mars. So, Planet Saturn Club. Planet Saturn, we can really, it's a very special planet, and it's very, I love astronomy in general. I love astronomy. I love the planets, and it's good to have a club. And I just thought, Planet Saturn's very cool. Planet Saturn's very interesting. Apparently, I watched in a couple documentaries. Apparently, that Einstein and even other big legends like Nikola Tesla, apparently, according to documentaries, apparently they were also fascinated by planet Saturn. Of course, they were fascinated by all the planets, but especially by planet Saturn. Because there is something special about planet Saturn. There definitely is. And we could have a big planet Saturn club. We could have a planet Saturn club that goes all around the world. When someone says that, oh, they're a liberal, they're a Democrat, they're a conservative, listen, I am a conservative, I really am. But when I'm going to identify myself, I don't like politics. Politics is like a necessary. You have to do politics in order, because politics matters. But it's like taxes. Like people pay their taxes. Do they like the taxes? No. People pay their taxes. People do taxes. Do they like taxes? No. Usually people don't like taxes. Sometimes you get a freak. Sometimes there's a freak that likes doing taxes, whatever. Sometimes you get freaks that like doing taxes, whatever. Or whatever. If you like doing taxes, good for you. That's great. It's great. We need people who do taxes. If you do taxes, if you like paying taxes, if you like doing taxes, good for you. But in generally speaking, people don't like doing taxes. So I don't like politics. I mean, I do politics because it's like taxes. It's like sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes there's stuff you have to do, right? So um, sometimes it's just the job. Like sometimes you have to talk about it. It's stuff you have to talk about. But if I'm going to identify myself, I don't like really. I mean, yeah, I am a conservative, and I will say I'm a conservative. But do I? When I really think about myself as a human being, I don't want to think about myself as a political person. That's not what I do. It only because I have to do it. Politics is something we all have to participate in. But what my real passion is science. My real passion is science. And when I want to identify myself, I identify myself as a scientist mathematician. And I would so be happy to tell people, oh, I am from the Planet Saturn Club. I am a scientist. I love planet Saturn. I love astronomy. I love science. I love mathematicians. There's probably so many people around the world that would love to just stop saying that they're conservative or Democrat or liberal or Russian or whatever. Like, no, I'm not Russian, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just to stop saying whatever. Well, I mean, okay, like if you are technically in the United States and there's a big war with Russia and Ukraine and there's a war with Russia and America. Okay, look at World War II. Look at World War II, right? They had Japanese internment camps. I'm sure in World War II, when they were rounding up the Japanese Americans, I'm sure that there were a lot of Japanese people pretending to speak Chinese and pretending to be Chinese. I would. That's what I would have done to save myself. Of course. It's called survival. That's what you have to do, what you have to do to survive. And if I were in World War II and I were Japanese American, you damn straight I'd be speaking Chinese and pretending to be Chinese. They're looking for Japanese people. I'd be like, I speak Chinese. I'm from China. No, I don't. Like, it's just common sense. It's like, yeah, of course, you have to do what you have to do to save yourself. It's so awful what they did to the Japanese people. It is so awful how they rounded up the Japanese Americans in internment camps. It's so awful. And yeah, of course, if I were a Japanese spy, or I'm just saying, if I were a Japanese American in World War II and they were suddenly rounding up the Japanese Americans into Japanese American internment camps, yeah, I would pretend to be Chinese, of course, or Korean or whatever. So, there probably are Russians that, when they're probably, it's really sad. They grow up and they see all of these Hollywood movies portraying Russians as the terrorists. Like, there probably are Russians that they don't want to embrace their identity because, it's really sad. I mean, everyone should embrace their cultural heritage. Everyone should embrace their ethnic background, especially even if you're German, like, Germans especially, like, you guys should be proud because it's sad that people the main reason that made Germany so famous. I mean, obviously all of these Hollywood movies portraying the Germans as Nazis, obviously that's how most people see they know of Germany as. It's kind of sad because the truth is that Germany is so much more. Germany, they have Oktoberfest, they have beer, they have sausages, there's science and mathematicians. Germany is a big country in science and technology. The Germans, a lot of our technology and science came from Germany. The Germans are big in science and technology. So for anyone, when they think of Germany, if it's like, if you're in that one of those game shows and they ask you a question, what do you think of? What's the first thing that pops in your mind when you think of Germany? Some people might say, oh, World War II, right? But really, Germany, what should pop in people's minds, I hope, is that people will be like, Germany? Oh, beer, sausages, Oktoberfest, science, technology, mathematicians. Like, Germany is so much more than just World War II. But unfortunately, because of Hollywood, they took the Germans and they made all of these Hollywood World War II movies portraying the Germans as Nazis. And even though people know it's entertainment, it's a movie, it still affects people subconsciously. It probably affects the Germans and it probably affects the Russians when they're portrayed as terrorists too. So But yeah, I mean, if someone's gonna ask me, how do you really like when you want people to remember you? How do you want people to remember you as? I'm a Russian, but I don't really know if I want how I really want people to remember me is a scientist. I mean, all of this other details about myself, it's just details. But really, what I am at my core, what my soul is I'm a scientist. So if people would ask me, how do you want people to remember you? Do you want people to remember you as this, as that, whatever? I'd be like, well, those are just details of my life. What I really want people to remember me as is a scientist, mathematician, etc. So we could take all these people around the world and they can identify in a club. They could become part of the Planet Saturn Club and identify as an astronaut, a scientist. Like they could have a real purpose in life, a real identity. And we could work towards something big. Like, what if we really did convince all these people to become astronauts, get on a spaceship, and go live on planet Saturn's moons, one of the moons of planet Saturn? That would be epic. That literally would be the definition of epic. If we could get all these people in the Planet Saturn Club, convince all these people to become astronauts, get on a spaceship, and go live on one of the moons that orbits planet Saturn. And suddenly, next thing you know, you're revolving, you're orbiting around planet Saturn, and you're living on one of the moons that orbits planet Saturn, part of the Planet Saturn Club. And you're now a Saturn person. You're considered a person of Saturn, like a person of the moon that orbits planet Saturn. Planet Saturn. That would be epic. So this is the one of the main reasons. It's not the only reason, but it's one of the main reasons of the Planet Saturn Club. Because at the end of the day, that's how I identify as. I identify as a scientist, mathematician, astronomer, etc. I'm not finished, but I'm wrapping it up soon, probably like 20 minutes. I'm just taking a break because I was talking for a while and I learned something about my streams. Usually my sometimes when I talk it does bring people in, but also other times it's good just to have silence because sometimes people just want to read the meme and just think about things. So I don't have the best speaking voice. I'm definitely always been insecure. I don't know why. I don't know how to make my voice sound deeper. This is the way my voice is. I just the way my voice is. I don't know how to make it sound deeper. I've always been jealous of men who have really deep sounding voices. I don't know how to make my voice sound deeper. I don't. It's not easy. So I just don't. I'm kind of self-conscious about my speaking voice. Also, being that, English is my second language, I've always been self-conscious about speaking. When it comes to mathematics and science, I'm very confident. But when it comes to speaking, public speaking, English, my speaking voice, those things I'm not so confident about. Kind of have insecurities there. So to answer your question, I'm not done right now, but I'm gonna probably be done soon. I'm gonna wrap up the stream in about 20 minutes. You never know because like you could wait 5, 10 minutes and suddenly the stream could pick up and like then you don't want to stop it, right? So if suddenly in 5, 10 minutes, like I get an influx of a lot of people, then I might consider staying the stream to go to the 4 hour mark. But if in the next 20 minutes it's kind of still a bit, not many people as much, I'll probably wrap it up. I just don't like to close streams when there's like a lot of people. Because you got a big viewer base and it doesn't if it's not going to hurt you to stay have the stream on for another hour or so. It's not. Unless I have to go to work. Obviously, if I have to go to work, then I have no choice. I have to just end the stream. But uh, it's um it's Saturday morning. I don't work today, so it's one of my days off. So I could do a stream for another hour and you know. Oh, so another thing. So let me go ahead and announce another thing. Well, I did announce it a few days ago, and I'll say it again. I'm planning to do a series of videos on the Arctic. So the Arctic is kind of a hot topic. I know it sounds funny because the Arctic being so cold and kind of a cold, wintry place, the Arctic being a hot topic, right? Obviously, it's an English expression, the hot topic, right? Something really popular. So the Arctic is kind of a hot topic, especially because of the Arctic Council and Russia's connection to Canada, being that Russia and Canada are two big countries that border the Arctic and have to watch over the Arctic and protect the Arctic. I'm planning to do a big video series about 6 or 7 videos, live streams, videos talking about the Arctic. So I am not an expert on the Arctic, but I do speak Russian and English, and I'm a scientist, and I'm actually gonna try to reach out to maybe some people who are experts on the Arctic and kind of get them to come to the live streams, see if I can get them to come to live streams to talk a bit. And I would be more of like the interviewer kind of role because I know a little bit about the Arctic, but I'm definitely not an expert on the Arctic. I don't live near the Arctic. I'm not an expert on the Arctic. It's definitely an interesting topic, and I'd love to talk more about it. And that's why I'm doing the whole series, is because, when there's something that I don't know about, like there's people that don't know about black holes. There's no one really that can really call themselves. I mean, I guess you could kind of try to call yourself an expert on the black hole, but there's no one who really has been to the black hole. So that's my point. Is like my point is that sure, people can call themselves experts on the black hole, but people really haven't been to a black hole. They don't really know for sure. And so I can talk about the Arctic. I'm the first one to say I'm not an expert on the Arctic, but that's why I'm talking about it, because I want to learn about the Arctic. So that's why I'm doing this video series, and I would love to find people who are experts on the Arctic and see if we can get information from them, because apparently I was reading in some spy novels. In particular, there's one that I'm reading right now, and it's called The White Plague. The White Plague by James Abel. I'm reading a book. It's called The White Plague by James Abel, and it talks about the Arctic. Another book that, because I did read another book that he wrote called Protocol Zero. Protocol Zero by James Abel was also about the Arctic. This guy is really smart. This writer is really knowledgeable about the Arctic, about Russia, about etc. stuff like that, about spy planes and nuclear submarines. Really cool, interesting stuff. So I'm currently reading his novel, and it's another novel where he talks a lot about the Arctic, and apparently the Arctic could could potentially be a place in the future where some stuff goes down, like maybe a war happens, something, because the fact that the ice caps are melting and all this other stuff in the Arctic, and there's a big, the countries are trying to take control of the Arctic. It might be like a big hot, literally a hot topic for real. In the figurative sense, it might be a hot topic, the Arctic for real, and in the future. And so I wanted to do a video series on the Arctic, also because I'm a scientist and I want to learn more about the Arctic. And I'm also reading those books. So those books are really good. So James Abel's a good author, and I'm reading his book Protocol Zero. He's really knowledgeable on the Arctic. But mainly, I really don't know that much about the Arctic. So I want to do a video series on the Arctic to learn, really, is to learn as well. And also, it fits in well with my science channel. And, like, I want my science channel to not be afraid to go to ask the questions, to explore the topics. For example, black holes, supernovas, a lot of these things in the galaxy, like we don't know what's in other galaxies. We don't know. There could be aliens. Aliens could exist, right? But 50 years ago, people who tried to talk about aliens and other galaxies, they would call you crazy 50 years ago. 50 years ago, people who would bring up, about they think aliens could exist or whatever, those people, they call them crazy. But now, look, the government, everybody's admitting that it's very possible and likely that aliens could exist. And not only could they not have existed, but they could have even visited Earth. It's very possible. So I'm not afraid to talk about aliens. I'm not afraid to talk about black holes and supernovas. And also right now with the Arctic, being how Russia, Ukraine, the Arctic is one of the countries that borders the Arctic. Russia is one of the countries that borders the Arctic. I'm not afraid to go to that topic and let's ask some serious questions. Let's really get to the bottom of what's going down in the Arctic. Why are famous novelists, why are famous writers suggesting, hinting, predicting that it's very possible that there could be a war outbreak in the Arctic between Russia, Canada, the United States? This is the impression that I'm getting reading from this novel. I am not, first off, I didn't finish reading the novel yet. I'm just in like the first, 4 or 5 chapters. But I'm kind of getting the impression that in the future, the Arctic could be a battleground between Canada and Russia and other countries because they maybe want to control the Arctic. They want to, there's resources and minerals or something in the Arctic really special. And so I think the Arctic in the future, I think it's important to talk about the Arctic. I think it's important to discuss the Arctic, and that's the purpose of the series the series of videos that I'm planning to do about the Arctic and the Arctic Circle and the countries, the Arctic 8, the countries that border the Arctic. Let's see if I can remember correctly. I'm gonna go ahead and challenge myself on the spot. Let's see. Let's see if I can name all of the 8 countries that borders the Arctic. I just looked this up a few days ago, but like I said, I'm not an expert on the Arctic. But okay, so obviously I know Canada borders the Arctic, Russia borders the Arctic. I'm pretty sure Norway, I think Sweden, Norway, Sweden, um, okay, Russia, Canada, Norway, Sweden, I think Finland borders the Arctic. Greenland. I think I got most of them. So I think I got about maybe 6 or 7. I think I got most of them. I would say I'm probably missing one, but one or two or maybe more. But I'm pretty sure I got most. I definitely got, of course, Russia, Canada, Finland, Sweden, Norway. I think I'm not sure Finland, but I'm pretty sure I said Norway, Sweden, um, and probably Greenland, of course. So these countries and Iceland, right? These countries border the Arctic, I think. So, anyways, most of them. I got most of them. I know that, but I definitely probably missed a couple. But see, that's the whole purpose of this video series of this Arctic is because so that people learn, right? So people know, right? So people, that's the purpose of doing these video series to learn about the Arctic and explore the Arctic more. And it's definitely appreciative. It's definitely an experience because, people love learning new things. So the Arctic is very a fascinating, very new topic to a lot of people. So it's definitely going to be really interesting to grab people because, a lot of times with people, they want to go for stuff they don't know about. They want to learn about something new. And so the Arctic, not a lot of people know about the Arctic, especially people who don't live near the Arctic. So those people will definitely see these Arctic video series and say, "Oh, hey, I want to check this out because I want to learn about the Arctic because the Arctic kind of sometimes seems like a mysterious place that a lot of people don't know about unless you live near the Arctic, unless you work in the Arctic, right? You don't know, right? So you'd probably be interested in a video series on the Arctic. So especially me, because I'm curious about the Arctic. I want to, especially with all these writers and these novelists who are making predictions about the Arctic in the future and hinting and insinuating that something might happen in the Arctic between Russia, Canada, the United States, etc., etc. So. I just came to sit back down. I had to get up for a second and walk around a bit because you know when if you're sitting for too long and then your leg, right? So your leg falls asleep. So I needed to get up and walk a bit and came back and sat back down. But I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who joined the live stream. Thank you to everyone who has left their opinions and their comments. I tried to respond to as many of them as possible. Obviously, I can't respond to all the comments, especially some of the comments, but I tried to respond to many of them. And I appreciate everyone who left a comment. And of course, there's just not enough time to respond to all of them, but that's the other reason I can't respond to all of them. But and also, it's hard to notice them while you're talking at the same time to talk and then also follow the comments. So, but I appreciate everyone who left a comment. I did respond to many of the comments, not all of them, but many of them. And I appreciate everyone who's come in, who've given their honest opinion. And thank you to everyone who's come in the live stream. I will probably wrap up the live stream soon because it's, uh, it's already been almost 3.5 hours. And unless like the room is packed, like unless the live stream is full of people, then it's not worth it to go on another half an hour unless it's full of people. Obviously, if it's full of people, then I don't want to just end the live stream because there's a lot of viewers, right? And I don't, I, of course, I'm appreciative for the people who are still in the stream right now. That's great. Thank you for being here. Um, but, I'm kind of tired because it's been 3.5 hours and I didn't talk for the full 3.5 hours, but I talked for a lot of it and I'm a bit tired and, you know, so 3.5 hour live stream is 3.5 hours is a long time. But I'm appreciative for everyone who's come in the live stream. Thank you. And thank you for leaving your opinions and